Labs is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Robert Edward, Pablo Dela Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, JMels24, Yu Lamento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Keep forgetting to turn the lights off, and then I boil my brains by the end of the live show. Yesterday, even though it was only about 10 or 12 degrees outside, what is it today? 17 degrees. By the time it got to the end of the live show, I was sweating like a little piggy because I just left the lights on the whole time. Problem is, if I don't, I end up putting myself on camera without any lights on me. Hey, Eli. Can you pass me my mic?
Good morning, guys.
What? Eli? This early?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was like, let me check and see if they're up already. And sure enough.
I've really enjoyed the last couple of shows that we've made. Everybody in the panel seems to be really on point. So I listened back to the Uncut and After show while I was driving back and forth to my eldest daughter's gymnastics class. It's actually trampolining, but it's easy to call it gymnastics. Anyway, I was listening to it, and everybody that's talking is talking about the redundancy of globe Earth versus flat Earth discussions, and how, you know, to infer you've got a geometric horizon, for example, you've got to first punch in the flat Earth measurements of distance and height. And everyone implicitly understands this on both the panel and from the occasional interloper on Discord. It seems like everybody's on the same page. There's a level of coherence to what we do currently that is really, really beautiful to listen to.
Yesterday's show was really good.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I was listening to yesterday's Uncut and After show that's members only currently. I've scheduled it for about a week from now to try and put some distance on the second channel, like, so that they're coming out at a bit of a later date. And somebody specifically asked me if I'd release the rocket propaganda video because they wanted to send it to their cousin. I'm like, yeah, I will do. And then he contacted me again today and he's like, you haven't released it. And I'm like, I didn't say it to him because I didn't have time to type out the message before toddling on to the lesson. But I was like, yeah, I will. I'll release it tonight. And if I'd have expanded on it a bit, I'd have been like, I've obviously got to do it within an upload schedule. I can't just, you know, chuck out a video that's taken me 4 hours to edit because you want it now. It's like, you've got it as a member. I will release it to the public eventually, but, you know, for a given period of time, I need my members only videos to remain members only, and then they can come out when, you know, beneficial to me financially for the public. You know, as much as, like I say, I appreciate my members and want to keep them happy. It's like, no, I've spent a considerable amount of time editing that video. I'm not just going to check it out at a random time.
Last week I did the same thing to you. I was like, yo, where's the Uncut and After show? Because you were like, it'll come out. I got to do what I got to do first. But I thought it was going to come out immediately.
No, I need to offer a certain degree of exclusivity, as much as, you know, the members eventually have the material that they're watching come out on the second channel, and the second channel gets a very limited audience, and you might perceive it as not very good value if you see it and then within a few hours. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will, if I'm going to put a video, if I intend to put a video out to the public, I'll make it members only just while it's going through the processes of YouTube processing. And I'm happy to do that. In other words, it might be that you get a members only video that's only exclusive for an hour or two, but that's fine. But in this case, it's like, no, that's a lot of, that was a, I don't know, what, a 15-minute video, let's just say. That takes quite a long time to edit. So I wasn't just going to stick it straight out. I did stick the shorts version out though, like the intro to it was already published as a whatever you call it, public shorts video. They're not lying to you, they're lying to everybody. I mean, they wouldn't propagandize me with that. That's most people's attitude. That's called cognitive dissonance. Yes, I know the man on the stand lied about everything, but there's something that he said that affirmed my religious belief in being on a bull, therefore I'm pretty sure I'm just going to accept that particular bit. You know, that's okay to accept. Like what, from the proven liars that you know lie to you? Yeah? Okay, good for you. Me, I don't accept anything that somebody who's lost all credibility says anymore, like the news, that are used directly to propagandize you. They even tell you, I don't know what it is about this mystical way of dealing out mistruth and letting you know that they have intentionally misled you. Like they'll teach you in school what propaganda is, so that you're acutely aware that they are lying to you. It's just slightly misappropriated language. Not lies, propaganda, right? Misinformation. Why not just call it what it is? They're just lying to you. But you don't see it that way because it's come through the lips of a newsreader who's reading off a teleprompter and doesn't really know what they're saying. Right, they're just coming from Reuters to begin with anyway, and they do their research. I'm sure most of it's true, 90%. But with the 10% that ultimately gives them this rap of being dishonest, kicks in with something that they're definitely attuned to, that's heliocentrism, then they couldn't possibly lie. Yeah, they could. They could completely lie about travelling out through a second law of thermodynamics violating space, that the gas that expands in all directions, like when you fart and it spreads out in your room, that's what all the gas would do if there was a sky vacuum. It would all piss off and never return. What's that? The rockets can go? Really? Why? Oh, they need to escape the force of gravity? Yeah, like they teach the 12-year-old boys in high school about the force. It's not a force. There is no gravitational attraction. There's a bent pseudo-geometry that was invented by a man named Einstein currently. And even then, that's 111 years superseding the force that you think that they need to have an escape velocity for? Really? So the gas is moving at high velocity. They can't traverse into the sky vacuum, but your rockets can, to get you little snapshots of the ball Earth from a sky vacuum. Really? What about all the gas that sits around the edge of that blue marble in a black area that's 10 to the minus 17 torr? No problem. Really? Now I'm thinking that it's just a lie for overgrown 12-year-olds. But what's that? The news wouldn't lie about it. NASA spend millions. These people own money. You think that some consequence is how much they need to spend on lying to you. They're not lying to you. They're lying to everybody. I mean, they wouldn't propagandize me with that. That's most people's attitude. That's called cognitive dissonance. There you go. There's a full-length version of that that's talking about sending rockets into sky vacuums. That's the one that comes out tonight, 9 p.m. You're really looking forward to it, Nathan? Oh, well, I'm pleased to hear it.
but they're sending pictures back. What are you talking about? You've seen Earth like you never seen it before, Nathan.
What did you say? We've seen Earth like we've never seen it before? What are you talking about? I've seen the pictures that Artemis has sent back. They're exactly like the pictures that we've seen before. Where's the where's the possibility of this area that they're in existing?
I'm just telling you what the headline of the picture said. Earth like you've never seen before. And then they show you a whole bunch of pictures that Artemis sent back.
Looking exactly how it's looked every time they pretend to go into an area that doesn't exist. It's Aslan like you've never seen him before. I can't make up my mind how to get this camera to line up in its orientation so the lines look square. Let's go the other way. Let's go down. That works. Oh, that's not bad. Can I get a sound check from Discord? Hey, Forthright and Dank. One of you say hello. You guys hear me in Discord? Hmm.
Good morning.
Ah, perfect. Just about to start fiddling and faffing.
Sorry about that. I had the wrong mic selected.
No worries.
Great to hear about the book. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, should be coming out any time now. I'm just waiting to hear back from the publisher. Okay, I think I've got this sus now. Need to get the camera level with my subwoofer. Or does it need to go lower? Let's try it lower. Yeah, not bad. I'll get the hang of it eventually with these new panels in the background. I want it to look the same every time. Harder than it seems when you've got a really weird pattern behind you.
No, it actually looks, I was going to tell you, it looks really good. I took notice to it the other day. Looks good now that you got it all in uniform.
Yeah, I think so. I had a replacement panel come yesterday because one of them had a chink taken out of it. So they sent a new one, and I put that up just before yesterday's show. Not that you could see a couple of mil bit of veneer missing, you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was going to be that bad. It was even behind my head when it's on shot anyway, but it's just one of them when I'm looking at the mics on the back wall when I'm walking around the lounge. I see it because your eyes drawn to it. But not anymore. Happy days.
That's the whole thing. Even if you let it go, you would know it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that looks pretty good. Do transition. Looks pretty good. Just seeing how it looks sized up on the preview. Well, not on the preview, on the actual recording. Looks good. If I slump, it doesn't seem to... If the camera's looking up at me as I slope back in my chair, it doesn't look as weird proportionally, whereas yesterday I had the camera above my eye line looking down, and when I slump in my chair halfway through the show, it looks really proportionately bad because I'm then halfway down the shot, whereas I'm not quite reaching that lower point even when I slope back now. So I think that's where it's going to be. This is going to be the end result. Good, good, good. Looking nice.
You know what's a little confusing? I agree with you. Everybody's on page with where we're at. But then somebody will come in out of nowhere and say, hey, are you ever going to go out back to worldwide debate? Or are you going to go to other platforms? So it's like there's still a hunger for that for a lot of people.
I mean, I go to these places and eventually they fuck me over. Like, I can't remember what happened at Worldwide Debates. Something happened, though. Vaguely remember somebody wanting to report me to the police or have my channel shut down. I think it was have my channel shut down. So there's people from that server saying, oh, well, we're going to be reporting your YouTube channel. You're like, why the fuck would I want to hang around with you, you bunch of complete pricks? It's like, you want me to go so that I can put my livelihood that I feed my kids with in jeopardy? Because there's people who don't like what I say to the degree that they'll say, we'll report your YouTube channel. For what? For describing how flat Earth gets measured? You'd put me in a position where I couldn't feed my family. But you want me to go into these servers? No, they're not pleasant. They're deeply unpleasant places to be. Or you'll go into, what was the other one? 24/7 politics? And somebody will play nigger, nigger, nigger on your recording. And when you say, oh, well, the context of the word nigger being used in this particular instance is from the lips of somebody who's actually racist. And then I get banned for repeating and trying to calm down the tone and texture of somebody who's played it into my recording when I'm live streaming. And for that, I get banned. You're like, really? By who? Oh, by a man who says that, quote, are you going to treat me like a nigger, end quote, from a white guy. You're like, oh, right, so you're going to use the term contextually being derogatory to the black community and then ban me from your server for being racist. Okay, hypocrisy 24/7 be thy name. You know, that kind of shit, again, is something I can do without. Like, no, I'm not going to be living in fear of particular words. And if somebody else wants to use them as a weapon to try and get me shut down and are successful because I diffuse those words that are intentionally being used in a racist context, that should be acknowledged as opposed to getting me banned. Like, okay, well, I'll just never return to that server. And there's plenty of other examples like that. Like even my own server, as it was labelled, Flat Earth Debate, after this very show, sided with people who stole from me. You're like, really? You're going to offer me a server to utilise on a daily basis for Flat Earth Debate, call it Flat Earth Debate, and when someone steals the Flat Earth Debate story from me, you side with them? Again, another reason why I don't have a server. Like, I don't want to have to detach myself from something that I've physically built. I'll go and frequent servers like we're in now, which is Flipside Discord server, right up until the point that somebody in here fucks me over, and be like, bye-bye. Got no allegiance to you in that regard. It's nice that you're offering me the ability to have a public gateway, but next man will offer it me if you don't. And if you want to choose to side with thieves and robbers who've literally robbed that which I have built with the assistance of a Discord server offering me a public gateway to offer the world the housekeeping questions as a sake of example, and you want to tell me that it's justifiable to side with people who've stolen from me, then you're just going to not have my company anymore. Like when people go, well, why don't you go back? You're like, well, there you go, come and reference this show. That's why. Because people are pricks. That's why. Especially from the Globe side. They literally want to end my ability to feed my family when I go and talk to them.
Well, same said guy you're talking about sent me a message saying if you're more than welcome to come and promote the release of your book there if you want.
I mean, while that's nice to hear, while I was in the middle of a live stream, I was disconnected from the server offering the public who were watching my live stream the ability to join to discuss this subject. Whilst in the middle of a live stream, I was removed from that server that's saying I'm welcome. Well, that's a lie. You, quote, permanently banned me for saying a word, nigger. That word doesn't scare me, by the way. You know, if you're going to say that I'm racist because I can say a word, that's garbage. Now, if I had a hatred of black people, that would be a reason to ban me. Now, people who use derogatory terminology about a particular group of people to infer that they are being treated in a less than fair way and then ascribe that word, that's nigger, to their treatment, that's racist. Now, I can summarise racism and use the word without fear of it. I'm not going to be in fear of using a word in the English language. Same goes for every other language, be it vulgar by the deemed rhetoric of YouTube, or crass by the inference of people who are listening. I'll use the broadest of linguistic ability that I can possibly acquire. If it's in my vocabulary, I will use it. Why would I feel that I need to censor the vocabulary that I use? It's absolutely ludicrous. What matters is the intent behind the words that you use. And when I use the words like perpendicular, flat, plane, surface level, sea level, eye level, altitude, elevation angle, those sorts of measurement-based inferences leave me in a position where I have to fear that I might not be able to pay the mortgage that month. If some dick in a server that literally hates me feels it's justified to try and attempt to take my career away from me. It's like, why would I come to your server to do that? No. If your moderation of your server means that the people within it are so scummy that they would try and relinquish a guest, that's me, of their ability to earn a living, then why the hell do you think I'd spend time with you? No. Get a grip. You know, figure out who's in your server. And if they're deeply, deeply unpleasant people, that's the kind of people that would try and have my kids taken away, try and have my career taken off me, have my YouTube channel shut down. Why would I want to spend time with them? Are you nuts? No thanks. I'm good. What I want to appeal to moving forward, or who I want to appeal to moving forward, is normies. Generally speaking, normies, I'd consider most of my family normies, and I like all of them. I love my family. My immediate family, that's wife and children. My extended family, if you want to call them that. Sisters, brothers, brother-in-laws, sisters-in-law, cousins, nieces, nephews. My extended family are all, generally speaking, just normal people. And they're lovable, perfectly kind-hearted, average Joe people. They're not trying to shut me down or try and get rid of me, and neither are the people who are friendly with them, or, to put it a different way, friends. People who I befriend don't turn around after I've had a discussion with them because they've asked me a question and say, I'm going to have you removed from YouTube. Nobody does that. So I want to appeal to people who already know that we've got a sea level, already know that miles on a map are flat, already know that the Ordnance Survey has measured the altitude of the land with respect to the surface level with an average measurement of sea level to do it with, that Rise Over Run utilises said horizontal linear measurements in miles or kilometres, that all of the measurements of Earth, including but not limited to the ones that have been derived into sphere belief, are flat. Now, if I explain that to your average normie and say, yeah, you already knew that sea level was flat, you already knew that an altitude angle or elevation angle is two straight lines, because you're not a moron. You understand that an angle is self-explained with straight lines. That's what an angle is. Now, for those who want to decry me the ability to make a living because they don't like how their sphere belief doesn't comport with the surface level measurements and feel justified in suggesting that I should have the social services come round and threaten my kids' ability to have a father or my ability to even feed them, then you are scum. And I don't want to be around you. I want to be around normal people. Now, in the conspiracy community, normies are to be frowned on. Why? The world is made up of normies. And most of them understand at a very fundamental level how flat Earth must be measured. It's only when they're put into an arena that's peddling their pseudoscience to 12-year-old boys that they feel that they've got to justify how spherical the world isn't being measured. Oh, well, it's okay to measure it flat locally. You're like, go away. You're not normal. When you're a conspiratard, anti-glober, anti-flat earther, you are not normal. And I felt this way since the day I got to flat Earth, whatever it was, 12 years ago. Suddenly come across conspiratards who are talking about Mandela effect and clone centres, and I feel the same way. You're not normal. Now, the people who have previously described as being in the same pond as us because they're on the other side of the discussion, not debate, there isn't one, it's measured flat. But the Simon Dans and the Craigs and the Professor Daves, these are all exactly the same. They're no different. They're not normal people. People who engage in cognitive dissonance suggest that, well, we measure it flat, but that means it's not. You're an idiot. And I don't want to be associated with you either. You're not normal people. Normal people understand an axiom like sea level. Well, that means level, having no part higher or lower than another. And that's how we measure the Earth. That's how it's been surveyed. That's how the topographical changes are described. And they're using the topographical changes from the sea level with horizontal linear distance measurements, as per the scales on maps and the surveys used to produce them. Most, if not all, normal people understand this and feel no need to apologise for how, yes, it's measured flat, but that doesn't mean it is. It's ludicrous, the kind of shit that we put up with from the opposing side. It's ridiculous. And I'm done with it. I'm done with being around crass idiots who remind me of little 12-year-old pubescent boys who want to learn about rockets and sky vacuums. Snotty, spot-faced, adenoidal little twats. That's what we're dealing with on the opposing side. And on our own side, we're dealing with people who think there's Mandela effects, silicon trees, and Tartarian mud floods. That's what we've got to deal with from our own side. Just crackpots. Crackpots to the left of me, idiots to the right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it anymore, right? It's been a tightrope of trying to appease the side that perceives to be my side. You're like, my side, if you want to call that flat earth group my side, aren't my side. Like, almost every single instance of buddying up to a so-called flat earther has resulted in them fucking me over. Because these people are all pricks. Conspiratard pricks. Out for number one, so they can sniff their own farts and tell themselves how wonderful they are because they know how heliocentrism doesn't work. Like, you're not interested in befriending next man. You're interested in people perceiving you to be the Lord and Saviour of a flat earth. Doesn't matter how flat earth will be measured regardless of any involvement from anybody. The people who are involved in the subject matter want to sniff their own farts. At all costs. Including, but not limited to, the detriment of me. Now, these people have shown those colours time and time and time and time again. Now, normies don't seem to do that for the most part. There's a small percentage, maybe 1 in 20, that are narcissistic, that will do that anyway. But for the most part, they don't. Most normal people are pleasant, honest, admirable, endearing characteristics that you would want to involve yourself in and hang around with. Like I say, cognitively dissonant 12-year-old boys on the fart-sniffing anti-flat earth side aren't the kind of people that most normies would want to associate with. They only find themselves associating with when they detach themselves from normality because they want to explain how circular or spherical a flat plane that's being measured is. Then they find themselves interacting with the overgrown 12-year-old fart-sniffing betas and gammas of the anti-flat earth world. Yeah, I don't have to engage with them. Sod them. Like, don't threaten me with my channel being shut down. Don't suggest my kids should be taken away from me. Don't porn bomb me. Don't steal from me. Don't ascribe my story to some spinster with big feet who can't keep a man. Because you just get described as what you are. Cunts. That's the people who surround me. For 12 years, I've been surrounded by cunts. And they show their colours every 6 months or so. The most recent cunts stole from me. Well, that's what you get. You get people who will decry their knowledge of you, say they're not watching you when they're publicising videos from you on their own site and asking you to defend their Bitcoin. You have people who suggest that they're more popular than you when they utilise a contradiction in terms about science not proving anything. You know, you get all sorts of shit when you're being called a scammer for going through how science and the scientific method works from people who are alleged to be on the same side as you. It's like, there is no side. This notion of there being a flat earth side, like, show me where there's any decency in flat earthers. Me knowing that earth is flat and having to label myself flat earther just means that I have to associate with the scum out there. And they are scum. They demonstrate themselves to be scum over and over and over again. Now, I've braced against the scum on my own side, as it's perceived to be in flat earth terminology, since day one. Gave you an example earlier with Jesse Spots. That was day one of flat earth. What do you mean there's clone centres? What do you mean Taylor Swift's a clone? What do you mean there's a Mandela effect? You're working outside the conventions of the flat earth measurements of the sun to derive time with, to suggest that you can bend it in geodesics and have multiple dimensions and time travel. You're just idiots that don't know your own rhetoric and are working outside of the conventions to satisfy your own conspiratorial beliefs and attaching them to a subject that's indisputable. Earth's measured flat. Why the hell should I have to listen to shit about Mandela effect and silicon trees and planes not existing on 9/11? Why do I have to listen to this shit spewed by complete wankers? I'll tell you why, because that's the path that's been preordained to take flat earth into a realm of conspiratorial nonsense spewed by idiots who don't notice how flat earth is measured in all circumstances. It's been preordained to be punted from conspiratards and set in juxtaposition with fart-sniffing, overgrown, beta-cuck, low-value males who think that the sky vacuum's real and that there's rockets going and taking little snapshots of blue marbles in sky vacuums violating laws of nature. That's what we've got. We've had it, for me personally, for 12 years. And all I've really learned about flat earth is two things. One, it's a false perception of a community. And two, that's redundant because it's measured flat, making everything about everything most people talk about in the suggested subject of flat earth nonsensical and irrelevant to the reality that we measure. Flatness of the surface. Horizontal baselines. Altitudes from surface level. Sea level to give you an altitude with respect to the ground. Altitude angles meeting at vertex points with respect to a horizontal that's derived from a horizon. Every single measurement of Earth, including but not limited to the ones that are applied to give you a sphere to believe in, are flat, making everything we've done for 12 years essentially redundant. Now, for the fart sniffers and people who want to tell themselves that they are the saviour of a flat Earth, it was being measured flat anyway. You didn't even need to exist for that to be a fact. Now, that will get me hated. That'll get people who are alleging to be on my own side also suggesting that I should have my kids taken off me or my channel shut down.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Those are dangerous words you just said there, buddy.
I don't care. I explained this to you yesterday. My motivation in being here is because this subject is interesting. It's an evergreen subject. It means there's ebbs and flows. There's a certain amount of humility you have to have when you find out that you're wrong about certain aspects of it. You're continually humbled in your own ignorance. Now, if you can accept that, you can have a pleasant journey through the realisation that Earth is measured flat. If you want to sniff your own farts and tell yourself how wonderful you are for understanding distance to a geometric horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height of a flat Earth, for a flat Earth linear horizontal distance to a geometric horizon in miles or kilometres. If you want to whistle past all of that, because next man won't understand the geometry of seeing too far, then you're not someone I want to be around anymore. It's just that simple. Now, initially, there's going to be a certain amount of detriment, but having come to this fascinating realisation has led me to be able to produce material about that, live shows and a book. And that's what I'll continue to do. Hopefully, I can appeal to the average normal Joe who appreciates that sea level is the arbiter of how we measure Earth's surface level and deviations thereof in the topology. That's how it's measured. Now, if you're a normal guy, you can understand that without having to need to apologise for it. If you're a fart-sniffing anti-flat earther who disclaims how flat Earth can be measured because it isn't, then you're a cognitively dissonant, fart-sniffing beta cuck who can distance yourself from me in future. Go away. You want to believe that it's flat in its measurements because it isn't flat, then you're stupid and you're not worthy of my company. If you want to believe that the story of Nathan Oakley and Flat Earth debate is your story because you're a thieving, valor-stealing scumbag, then again, detach yourself from my company. Go away and never return. Go and sniff your own farts over there while you steal the valor of an interesting journey of discovery that myself and my audience has gone along. If you want to believe that science doesn't prove things, a contradiction in terms, when I describe the empiricism of cause and effect reasoning in a hypothesis, making me a scammer, then again, go away, get lost. If you want to ask me to defend your Bitcoin and then suggest that I don't exist when my name comes up in a live stream that's discussing the subject that I've focused on, specialised in for 12 years, like Judas, you're scum. Go away. You're not worthy of our company. Now, yesterday we were talking about the people that we've attempted to get better skill sets when it comes to representing us. Well, we don't need representation. That's the reality here. Does it matter if Dave Weiss does an utterly shit job of representing us in Flat Earth? No. Does it matter? No. It will still be measured flat. Distances on the maps have been surveyed. Miles are linear. Deviations in topology will be described with respect to said linear distance. Altitude will be perpendicular to a plane. The plane will be referenced from sea level. Sea level will be an average flat Earth measurement, and there's nothing anybody in this arena can do or will ever do to change those facts. We are inconsequential. That means that, moreover, the people who it felt like there was some betrayal that I should feel, you know, what's the word? Wronged as a consequence of, were irrelevant. I should have known better. I should have known how little difference it actually really made. It was just an interpersonal relationship between me and Jeroen, me and Dave, or me and whoever it is. That's all it was. An interpersonal relationship that was once solid, now not. That's it. That's all it really means. Good.
You need to cut that first part of that out and put it in a video. What you just said. That might need to get timestamp or something. But that's pretty much all of it in 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah, hold on. I agree, but that doesn't mean when we're talking about, he's a representative of us. It doesn't matter. It does matter. It doesn't matter to what the world is. Of course not. It's still always measured flat. But everybody don't know that, Nathan. So when these people go out, they are representing people that claim the Earth is flat.
But that's the point. They don't need to know. Nothing Dave Weiss or Jeroen does or ever will do will ever affect the measurements. And if they attempt to get involved with the measurement process, they'll affirm how flat it is. As an example, you go out to Antarctica in a south direction. Oh, right, so you're immediately affirming how two-dimensional the system that you will use to describe your travel will be. Okay, so that's a flat Earth prerequisite. And when you get there, what are you going to do? Measure elevation angles of the sun for an alleged 24-hour period. So you're going to measure Earth flat then? So what was the point of your existence? Had Jeroen never been born, elevation angle measurements would still be in existence. They'd still have created all the maps. They'd still be what was used to not die at sea. You'll still have sea level be the master reference for all of the topology changes on maps. when you draw out the rise over the run with horizontal linear distance measurement. Everything that was being done was inconsequential. So when you boil it down, if you've got to replace flat Earth measurements with a social hierarchy and a structure called flat Earth in name only, then that is really all we did when we were engaged with that group of people. Not measurements of Earth's surface, a group of people. And when you're interacting with a group of people, what really transpires is whether or not people are good, honest, endearing human beings or scum that will fuck over next man in a heartbeat, that will steal from them, that will put their family into hardship. That's scummy interpersonal relationships. Again, nothing to do with Earth measurements. Doesn't matter. Dave Weiss, oh yeah, we're not watching Nathan Oakley. Really? You're publishing me on your app. Did it matter? No. If his app never existed, if Dave had never been born, we'd still have elevation profiles. We'd still have elevation angles. We'd still have circles of equal altitude. We'd still have a parallel eye level to surface level for dip angle measurements to infer that we've got sphericity. The sphericity would still rely on flat Earth measurements. Nothing we do will change any of it. What does that mean? It means we're inconsequential to the facts in the matter. When I was making today's video, now I've finished making the book, I can spend time making videos. So from yesterday's show, I'm trimming out a similar sort of rant from yesterday's live show. And in the rant, I needed to go and get a screen grab of the scales on maps. So I do a quick Google search for map scales, and the thumbnail that comes up, which I didn't know was a thumbnail when I saw it as a still image, was from the map making channel, that Wayne guy. So I click on it, thinking I'm going to get a photo that I can steal, and instead I'm taken to his video describing the horizontal linear measurements of the scales on maps. Now he's doing that without a care in the world, because that's how it's done. Even if he, the one describing how flat Earth has been mapped and is scaled on the maps, even if he didn't exist either, maps would still be flat, the scales would still be flat, miles would still be linear. Nothing he does to affirm the facts in the matter, without a care or apology for how spherical it isn't, would change the reality of the measurements. Nothing we, he, or anybody does will change how flat Earth is, will it?
No, but what I'm saying, I guess you can get a good freaking reading on people, though, because then this is like a good test because you can know where people are at. Because I'm finding that the more people that resist this and move on to gravity and things like that, then you can tell what they're about. But the ones that say, oh, shoot, yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. It does measure flat. You can't get around it. Just think it's a good test to see where people are at.
Me, I don't care where they're at. I keep saying, where you're at, it's like if you think that you can punch in flat Earth measurements of distance into an Earth curve calculator and then infer that there's a distance to a geometric horizon below the surface level, and that's satisfactory for you to believe that the curving Earth is what you're actually standing on when you input flat Earth measurements, then have it. You're welcome to it. Where you're at is inconsequential to me. Now, in terms of me with a different hat on, producing YouTube content, it's back to your original question. People are asking, why don't you go back into 24/7? Why don't you go out back into Earth Awakenings? Why don't you go into wherever? Like, because the people are scummy. That's why. I've got nice people around me, right? I can't think of a single person in the Master B server who's not a pleasant person. That is to say, I could go down that list and there wouldn't be a single exception that I'd say I wouldn't want to sit and have a pint with that person. I'm sure if there was a nice enough sunny day and we were outside with a pint of cider, I'd have a laugh with every single person in the list. That is to say...
about that?
Say again?
You sure about that? When was the last time you looked at the people that are in Master B?
I don't know, 12 months ago. I don't know. I'm talking metaphorically. I haven't actually looked down the list for a long time. What's your point? Why? Is there somebody in there that you don't like?
It's not the matter of I don't like. It's they don't. So,
Did you
I don't
see
know. Some of them are suspect.
Did you see the video I sent you about?
Here's the deal. To me, if anything other than taking your back on this in this situation, to me, you're a scumbag. So I guess that's my freaking scale. That's the only way I go by it. So if I'm seeing people in Master B that are siding with people that robbed you, then to me, you're a scumbag. So my freaking temperature gauge is a little hot, I guess.
No, no, it's not. To to stand in judgment of those who support criminals, there's nothing wrong with you, Neil.
Yeah, I tried to illustrate that in the Master B chat when I said to you, look, what you're doing is very admirable, actually. And plenty of people have said that to me, Neil. I don't want to butter your ego too much, but the amount of people that have commended you on your loyalty and general straight...
It's freaking right and wrong. What do you?
Yeah,
I don't understand
your
what
appreciation
this is.
of right and wrong. Now, given, I hope you don't take offence to this, that you're an ex-criminal from many, 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 many years ago, is ironic. Your gauge of what is right and what is wrong is finely tuned and just and right and correct. So when people turn around, that's why I sent the Carl Jung video to you today. When people oppose you for what you're doing, in defence of me, it's even more difficult for me to do because I just sound like a bleating woman when I'm moaning about getting fucked over. Now, I can do it to a certain extent, but there are certain illustrative points that I can't make because I just sound like I'm bleating about it constantly. When you do it, you've got the right to do it indefinitely, as long and as much as you want to. Perfectly justifiable. The problem is that you're holding a mirror up to people who wanted to turn a blind eye. Yeah? The reflection they see back when you do that is grotesque to them. So rather than accepting their own grotesque reflection that you are producing for them when you, Neil, hold that mirror up, they project it back onto you, don't they, Neil? Suddenly you're the problem, aren't you, Neil? Oh, you going on again about how Nathan got stolen from? Oh, bloody hell, Neil. What that is somebody recognising how grotesque they look in that mirror when they support people who've stolen from me, a family man. After offering support. Lies. Lies to con material from me. That's what's happened. Now, the people who are supporting those con men don't want to hear it because it makes them seem grotesque in the reflection. So they will project it immediately onto you, Neil. Suddenly you're the problem. No, you're not. Far from it. Know this, every time you get criticised, that is the person criticising you despising their own reflection in this circumstance. That's what it really is. I've got 7 minutes. I'm going to make a coffee. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, it's not even that I want to bring it up. It's that when I hear shit, it annoys me. Because if you don't have a freaking moral code, then what are you doing? Like when I hear somebody say, if the Beatles, the Doors, and freaking Buddy Holly all go on Ed Sullivan show, does that give the intellectual property of Peggy Sue, She Loves You, and I Light My Fire, Ed Sullivan's intellectual property? I mean, that is just a freaking false comparison. And if you are duped by that, then stay over there. Or Shakespeare, for instance. Does the landlord own freaking Romeo and Juliet? No, you dumb bastard, because when you sign a lease, you have that property. It's in your possession. So what you do there is your intellectual property. Freaking retards. But it's all inconsequential because Earth is measured flat. Doesn't matter. I lose the internet? What's going on here?
You're all right, Neil. Don't freak out. We can hear you. Of
Who's that? Flat Arthur?
course it is.
What's going on? How's things in India?
All good. I was telling you about that flat earther from India who goes on podcasts and talks about the curvature, a so-called flat earther talking about the heliocentric model. But unfortunately, I can't go live these days and cover his videos. But whenever I get the time, I am going to do that. And I think it is going to be too much of a hassle to ask Nathan to cover that video because it is in Hindi. Although I am here, but it doesn't make a lot of sense that you go through a video which is not in English. But it's a lot of fun.
Well, there was another video that was posted under the one we did yesterday that Michael Kahn sent me and asked me if I could run it by Nathan, see if we could do anything with it. So maybe we'll do that one. That one sounds pretty good. They call it, this is the results. This is the consequences of making Earth flat. Something to that effect. I think that would be a good video.
It talks about Galileo or something. I just watched the first few minutes of it, I suppose.
Oh, did you?
Just the first minute of it, but it was talking about Galileo and how he was persecuted for saying that the Earth is a globe.
Yeah, well, these are the things you ran into, right? When you first come to flat Earth. Oh, you mean there was people put in prison for this. They all knew it was a sphere.
I'm not sure about when you first come to flat Earth
finish
because
Ultimate
the other
Plus,
flat earther, so-called flat earther, is still talking about it after so many years, and people just don't get over it. I think there was someone from Discord piping up. Go ahead, brother.
It was me queuing at the video.
So you're saying still today they fall for the same nonsense, flat earther?
No, these so-called flat earthers who are still talking about images sent by NASA and nitpicking that it is an image and not a photograph. Oh my God, it's puke-worthy.
Old school feast of nonsense. Hey, you'll like this, Flat Arthur. I don't know if you were here yesterday, but Christian and Neil were talking, and they basically summarised that the housekeeping questions to date get recategorised after a recognition how flat miles are, or height is, or elevation angles are. All of the roads that you'd need to lead to the conclusion that you're on a ball start with flat Earth measurements. But that makes the housekeeping questions that are directly tied to the presuppositional ball and the overcomes to a ball that's ignored the flat Earth measurements that created it, that's housekeeping questions. They all get categorised now as feast of nonsense also. So while how do we have pictures from a sky vacuum is former feast of nonsense, like NASA rhetoric and people dropping keys and, you know, glasses of water not adhering to what they suggest is an orbital motion. You know, all those sorts of feast of nonsense subjects that we used to deem feast of nonsense now have alongside them things like, is there any evidence of an R value? Like, well, what do you mean, is there any evidence of an R value? Earth gets measured flat to derive a radial value. So how is asking for a spherical radius value anything other than feast of nonsense? It whistles past the fact that having an R value beyond the presupposition when it was deemed a worthy housekeeping question is to ignore how flat Earth measures to acquire an R value. Little did we know that almost all of the housekeeping questions would eventually be labelled feast of nonsense. They are.
Now that's proper representation.
Say again, Neil.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Len. What did you say about representation, Neil?
I said, now this is the proper representation. A nice full panel on both sides.
Oh, Neil's Neil's knocking the panel that didn't turn up on a couple of the other occasions. Just for the record, there is absolutely no obligation whatsoever for any of you on the panel or in the Discord server to be here to frequent me and my live show at the time I go live. If it was the case, and it has been once or twice, that I've started a live show with absolutely no guests whatsoever, then so be it. The very first live stream I did was me and my wife trying to figure out how to use what was then called Hangouts on Air, a Google Plus system where you could broadcast via YouTube with their internal software being the actual catalyst to get the material out live on YouTube. And when we broadcast and started talking about quite a lot of Feasts of Nonsense subjects like NASA, as we were talking about in the pre-show, we had one guest join, not on the panel, in the audience, one person, Robin Poe. Now, she eventually became a guest on the show called Flat Earth UK, where I interviewed people who were interested in the subject of Earth being flat, with my first question on 99% of those shows being, how did you, my guest, find out Earth is flat? And I'd generally get an answer that was actually revolving around how they were on a conspiratorial vibe when they came across the subject of flat Earth, and it made sense to them. Ultimately, 12 years down the line, and as was discussed in the pre-show, we're now pointing out how inconsequential it is that we, as a conspiratorial group, are set in opposition to overgrown 12-year-old beta and gamma boys, for the most part, who want to believe in sky vacuums and rockets entering them when they whistle past how flat Earth must be measured in order to create a ball. And likewise, in juxtaposition, you have anti-globers, labelled flat earthers, who tell you how globe-shaped it isn't when we see too far. Too far for what? The mathematics of an automatically assumed to be globe, you say, is wrong. That's not flat Earth. Flat Earth is dealt with by the map makers, the surveyors, the people who are using celestial navigation, the people creating the maps or building on Earth's surface level, the people who derived clever methodology to get the average of the sea level so you could use it as a master reference to describe all measurements and deviations from said level in a measurement of Earth's surface. It's flat, regardless of whether or not it's been successfully infiltrated by conspiratards to also, like the gamma and beta 12-year-olds, whistle straight past how flat Earth must be measured in order to argue about how globe-shaped it isn't when we see too far. What's too far? Oh, it'd be a distance, linear and horizontal, like on the scales of maps, that you'll have to ignore so you can have a little argument with some overgrown 12-year-old who's utterly inconsequential and, generally speaking, a low-value male in society, unpleasant to be around, and is offended that you're challenging his oh-so-valuable globe Earth information that he held so dear and most normal people saw as completely lacking in value, boring, and not worth investing their time in. But here we are, conspiratards versus dweebs, arguing about something that is inconsequential when it actually comes down to the nitty-gritty of Earth measurements. They're flat. Nothing we did had any consequence on any of it. That's me on the conspiratorial vibe that I found my way to flat Earth through, and our opposing so-called side that see value in believing in sky vacuums with rockets travelling in them, derived from orbital motion that had a flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle to produce it. My hope moving forward is that there'll be more and more normies coming to the subject. Normies, the ones that I've just described as finding the heliocentric information boring, haven't invested in the fart-sniffing nonsensical garbage that has no practical application called heliocentrism. It doesn't have any real use. Most people recognise that instantly and therefore don't invest their precious time that they're very limited in the unbelievably dull information these beta and gamma 12-year-olds have found value in. But they will understand implicitly, with enough time, how surface level is measured. Most people have got a vague comprehension of how map works. Most people have got a vague comprehension about how scale works with miles on said map. And most people have got at least some idea of how a compass gives them two-dimensional directionality. All of your navigation systems are utilising flat Earth measurements. Same goes for any building principles. When you level your terrain, you're levelling it and acquiring its altitude with respect to a master reference, the average of the sea level. Mean sea level dictates your altitude anywhere on the surface of an Earth that's already been measured. Any of you can look up right now in the audience how high you are off sea level. And it wouldn't matter if you're 1,000 miles inland. The deviation from the horizontal plane of reference is only going to be given you in feet. That's it. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little deviation from the overall flat topology that we've got with a measured reference called sea level. Now, most people hear sea level, normies, not the deeply unpleasant people that would suggest I should have my kids taken off me, my channel should be shut down, I should jump off a tall building or have my balls cut off. Not those deeply unpleasant, fart-sniffing, grown-up 12-year-olds who value their sky vacuums for their rockets. Normal people understand height with reference to an plane. That's height above sea level in feet. Not the ludicrous derivation that would also require a surface level to infer when you suggest the sphericity to the surface level we've measured flat, built on flat, flown across flat, traversed, mapped and charted flat, utilised elevation angles with respect to the stars from a flat plane, derived dip measurements, that's depression angles from a parallel eye level. All of these things are basic things that any normal man can understand. If I can rattle them off as a perceived to be dumb flat earther in one or two sentences, I absolutely assure you, normal Joe public can understand how flat earth is measured. Most people don't need a fart-sniffing anti-flat earther telling them how flat a mile is. Most people have got a map somewhere in their house and understand how a scale works without being told that, yeah, I mean, of course we've measured it all flat. Doesn't mean it is. My last chapter is about Robin Poe. It was one of the last things I read. So having sent it off to the publisher, I read through it once or twice and found a couple of spelling errors. The most recent time I read through it, there was one spelling error that I found. Now, that's not to say that there isn't more in there. I just haven't spotted them if there are any. When you buy the book and go, ha-ha, you've spelt this word wrong. Therefore, Earth's not measured flat, sea level's bending. I mean, you can do that too. That's fine, as long as you purchase a copy. But in the last chapter, I'm specifically detailing the redundancy found within the argumentation when we arrived here 12 years ago. Robin Poe described how Earth curve wasn't obscuring her view when looking to a transceiver 110 miles away. Now, what do I hear? 110 miles? Okay, that's a flat Earth horizontal linear distance in miles then. So why do we need the story about Earth curve not being in the way of the transmission? We don't. We've got a flat measured distance in miles. If you're going to reference it, you're going to need to accept our flat Earth must and can only be measured. What's that? We've got hills and valleys, therefore it's not flat. Yeah, they're measured with respect to the sea level too. Their deviation given in feet, so that you can look up how high you are perpendicular to a plane of reference called sea level. And it's only deviating in hundreds, at best thousands of feet. teeny tiny little deviations from the overall flat Earth that we've averaged with sea level. As I said at the top of this show, none of what we have done on the other side of this discussion, on the fart-sniffing now anti-globe side, that seemed to want to lord it over next normal man who didn't see the value in learning about boring crap called heliocentrism that had no practical application for them in their real world. But there's certain flat earthers, in name only, that want to lord it over average Joe because he didn't see the value invested in heliocentrism. Well, that same person can really easily understand how flat a mile is, how two-dimensional south is, how a map works, how all of the heights from sea level where you are in the world don't require much cognitive processing. It's not a heavy investment to understand height. It's not. Perpendicularity might be a long word, but it's a very simple axiom to understand. 90 degrees to surface level, like you'd measure altitude. You can get into the more complex aspects of navigation if you're going to go out on a boat and navigate. But the reality is this entire arena is populated with fart-sniffing numpties that don't do anything with Earth. The reason they could whistle past how flat Earth was being measured in the first place is because they're not doing anything with it. Same goes for the anti-flat earthers. What's Simon Dan used in practical terms when it comes to Earth measurements? I mean, notwithstanding the fact that his Earth measurements 1,000 times over were of flat Earth elevation angles to the sun, but he didn't do anything with them. Nothing he did had any bearing on anybody's lives. We already knew how to measure elevation angles. We already had a surface level requirement in prerequisite to measure them. We already knew the altitude that each and every one of them was measured because the ground's already been surveyed. We know how high you watching right now are off sea level. I think arguing about it as a fart-sniffing YouTuber makes any difference. No. But the guy who goes out on his boat and learns how to navigate with the stars on a map with flat, linear miles, you're reliant on having been measured already. They weren't measured by YouTubers. They weren't measured by me. I am inconsequential when it comes to this stuff too. I'm just a YouTuber. But like any normal person, I can understand implicitly how flat all Earth measurements are without any exception. Go on, whoever's desperate to get through with their mic opening. Is it you, Arthur? Go ahead.
Yep. So I just remembered Neil talking about the same thing yesterday, and I'm not sure, I forget the word that he used, but he was saying that we have made so much progress, or we have grown so much in the past 8 to 10 years that today we can find flat earth prerequisites in almost every alternate sentence that Neil deGrasse Tyson says. So instead of putting it that way, that we have made a lot of progress, I would like to put it in the same way that you did, that it is just like going back to basics and realizing the fundamentals of the whole thing, and the realization that we have been whistling past the graveyard forever. No need to do that any longer.
That's a members only video if you want to watch that.
Dancing there. Yeah.
If you want to join as a member, you can see exactly what Arthur's talking about, which is now produced and edited in terms of me pointing out that Neil deGrasse Tyson fundamentally requires Earth to be measured flat to make his assertions that boats fall over a horizon. Now, if that sounds familiar to, by the way, I wish I'd put this into yesterday's edited video. Why is it familiar? Well, because there's an assertion that was put to us in the Feast of Nonsense rhetoric that whistle past flat Earth measurements of distance and altitude, that boats fall over the edge of a flat plane, and how ludicrous that would be. Meanwhile, you've got your rhetoric that requires surface level measurements for altitude, hold true with a sea level perpendicular and parallel to eye level, and distances that are horizontal and linear being applicable after the fact. Neil deGrasse Tyson requires every single one of those axioms hold true for his assertion that boats fall over the horizon. That's you fart-sniffing 12-year-old boys that fantasize about sky vacuums with rockets in them to take pictures from a place akin to Narnia. That's for you. You and your boats you think fall over a horizon that's been derived from flat Earth measurements of distance and altitude. What's that? The surface level curves? No, your maths relies on having a parallel eye level to the surface level. So no, the surface level doesn't bend. Or your maths that you fantasize a ball into existence with fail. Now me, I'm pointing out how Neil deGrasse Tyson, lest he be deemed utterly stupid, must understand how flat Earth gets measured. Because he disclaims it when he describes the distance. And infers Earth curve geometry, that's Earth measurement, that's utilising, as it's labelled in the maths, surface level, and height perpendicular to surface level, eye level, parallel with the surface level, every single flat Earth prerequisite that Neil deGrasse Tyson requires Earth be measured as a flat plane, so he can suggest, with no practical application, that boats are falling over the horizon. Yeah, how many times has that saved anybody's life at sea? Yeah, never. There's never been a useful need to suggest that boats are falling over the horizon. That's stupid nonsense for fart-sniffing 12-year-olds. Meanwhile, measuring Earth with a parallel plane to the eye level when you use a sextant to measure an angle to a star will save your life at sea. It's got a very practical application when it comes to the preordained flat Earth prerequisites that are used in every single measurement of Earth's surface ever, including Tyson's use of them to infer that there's a spherical surface below the surface level, inferred with a horizontal linear distance, and a height measured perpendicular to a sea level measurement that we took from Earth and its surface in what he called geometry. That'd be Earth measurements. So when we go and have a little look at Tyson's measurements, they're all flat, just like Earth is measured by everybody. Now that's what we can retrospectively look at 8 years down the line since his video that we covered yesterday was made. But as Flat Earthers pointed out, all roads lead to flat Earth measurements, and there are no exceptions.
Hold on a second. You didn't have that knowledge when you had that poll person. One person showed up when you went live, right?
No. So we talked about...
As you go on for years and years and years, you grow in a grace and knowledge of the subject that you are going through, that you're part of. And that's all I meant by that. I mean, yeah, now we know. We could look at the freaking anything Neil deGrasse Tyson does, and boom, we could point out the dancing bear, the flat Earth right there. But it's also a growth that we don't entertain. Like I told you the other day when I went in the server and I heard them mocking a guy that did not know much about heliocentrism. And it's kind of like dirty to me. Like, why are you mocking the poor guy? All right, so you know how fast the Earth is spinning. Oh, really? So the Earth is spinning. So you think by saying all of these things, you're superior, but all you're doing is keeping the globe alive. So, I mean, I think we've grown in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a felt desire to brace against the claims of heliocentrism, which required both the hippies and the fart-sniffing dweebs invest cognitively in globe information. Again, notwithstanding that they'd have to whistle past every flat Earth measurement that's creating those globe understandings from flat earthers and the decriance of a normie who doesn't have an exemplary understanding of this cognitively expensive information of heliocentrism. Those people are far more inclined to recognise the reality of how Earth is actually measured because it's not cognitively expensive. Yeah, miles are flat. That's not up for debate. That's a fact. That's what they are. It's a linear distance. When you're selling land, you sell it by the square foot. That's how you square the flat linear distances that your land will be measured with. This is one of the most basic fundamental premises that selling land can only adhere to. Now, when it comes to this selling of land and buying of areas that are described squared with the linear distances described in kilometres or miles, these are facts. that money might be involved with when you're buying things. So it's really basic. It's really easy to understand. The ground that you're buying has been measured, sir. Yes, we know exactly how much you'll pay for. How much? Oh, well, it's this number of square yards. Yeah? That's when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of money. What's that? Anti-flat earther? You say boats fall over the horizon? How can I monetize that? Can I buy it by the pound? Will it save my life at sea? Look, that boat looks like it's going over the horizon. Which one? I can't see anything. Yeah, get your telescope out, because hashtag shit shrinks. It's really small.
Nathan, that's pretty good. You're right. They sell property, land by the square, but not by the foot. Paying attention, people?
Yeah, you could buy an entire country and you'd expect the country that's selling it you, if you're buying an island or something, to have mapped it out, surveyed it, and then give you an exact value to have a dollar amount attached to it. Now, when it comes to stuff like buying and selling, property, land, areas, people understand this basic principle of Earth being flat to measure it. Now, you could turn around and say, yeah, but it doesn't mean it is. Oh, really? Well, do you want to tell me where that's useful? Other than brainwashing 12-year-old beaters? It ain't. It's only useful for you to believe you're on a curved surface that we're measuring flat when we're actually dealing with money. You can believe that surface is curved, 8 inches per flat Earth linear mile squared. So even your inference that there's a curve to Earth's surface requires we have a measured flat distance in miles to derive a squared function from 8 inches per flat linear horizontal mile squared. That's a flat Earth measurement that you'll start with to infer your sphericity. It's pathetic. Like I say, it's not got a practical application. Deriving curve from flat Earth measurements of miles or kilometres doesn't have any practical use. It's not going to make you any money. That's why the normie who came into the server Neil was talking about didn't know much about heliocentrism. He's a normie. Yeah, a rational person. Normal. Doesn't see any value investing in shit that has no useful practical application. That guy who's going out on a boat will learn how to measure Earth flat with angles so he doesn't die. But you fart sniffers thinking that boats are falling over your horizons, you won't ever give me a practical use for that. It's never made anybody a dime. Well, maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson for lying to you with it. Maybe he made money from it. Go on.
Somebody trying to get in?
I thought I had somebody trying to get in. Clearly not.
Well, there's somebody in chat that says, number one proof of flat Earth is, how about everything?
Measurements. If you want to know, if you're asking in sincerity, what's the number one proof of a flat Earth? Number one, that's an error in terms of your phraseology, because you're suggesting it requires proof. No, it doesn't. It's measured flat by everybody who ever measures Earth ever without exception. Now, you can tell me, no, the miles that we're going to square when I buy this land to farm on, they're not square miles. Yeah, they are. It's just a fact. Now, nobody who's selling land gets into the wrangle-dangle about whether or not it's sphere-shaped. They just sell their square miles to the next man so he can farm that land. That's when people are dealing with the grown-up stuff like measurements of the surface. How high is this land? Will it drain well? How much relief do we have for the rain to run off the land? Oh, we can measure and survey the relief. How do we do that? Oh, well, we take the horizontal linear miles. That aren't a proof of flat Earth. It's just Earth being measured flat. Nobody's using this information to prove a flat Earth. They're just asking how much rain will run off their land that they're buying by the square mile in the relief measurements from the surveys that measure the altitude with respect to the sea level that's been measured. These are all measurements used in the very real business of buying and selling land. People want to know about relief. They want to know if their land will get flooded. Like land that has water at rest pooling over vast areas of it. Yeah, that's going to be solved by how much relief is surveyed with respect to the horizontal miles. Now, these are things that people, like I say, will be dealing with money with, so they're not complex. They need to be made nice and simple. What's that? They're only made simple because it's not flat? Oh, really, 12-year-old fart-sniffing beta? Do you want to tell me where that gets monetised? Maybe you can tell me how useful boats going over the horizon is to your average mariner who's measuring Earth flat with elevation angles so he doesn't die. Yeah. You can believe that your fart-sniffing sphere inference after the flat Earth measurements has some value. It doesn't. And most normal people moving forward will start to recognise that. Hopefully people will share my book around where I make it absolutely explicitly clear how the process of cognition through flat Earth exploration only leads you to one conclusion at the end of it. Wouldn't matter if you'd read the book, Earth would have been measured flat anyway. Speaking of which, it can't be more than a couple of more days before my publisher gets in touch with me and said it's live. As I said yesterday, it'll be a bit of an anticlimax initially when the book goes live. I'll just be telling you on one of the live shows and pointing you in the direction of the link. So there's not going to be some massive party. There's going to be no arrows fired into the air lighting bowls or anything, if you know what I mean.
Is it hard copy or online only?
Initially, it'll be online only.
Oh, you got to put it out.
Yes, I have. It's called Measured Flat.
Oh, there was some lady, Betty, that said Nate, it was never your book. Isn't that funny?
Oh, right, yeah, because this woman called Betty, this is a woman with big feet who can't hold down a boyfriend, was used in substitution of a story about me and Flat Earth Debate housekeeping questions that was produced in the form of a fifth draft under my supervision in my Hangouts with two people who had offered me help so I could help feed my family. Those two people thieved my fifth draft that was produced in my company, in my Hangouts, under my supervision, and had her name and her story about how she can't keep a man in place of my story. So you're saying that woman who can't hold down a man says that there was no book? Yeah, there was. I was offered help with it by the people who changed my name to your name, Betty. Yeah? You've been superimposed on top of stolen material that was about me. You are the porno version of my story, Betty. That's all you are. Yeah? I'm the Steven Spielberg film. You're the Steven Spielbergo porno version that a couple of editors stole, repurposed, and slapped your name on the top of. Now, you can delude yourself that your story was what they were producing in my Hangouts under my supervision whilst producing a fifth draft that they stole. But in reality, Betty, your story's been told by thieves and is a thin veneer over the top of my story, which is what people actually want to read about story. Not a story about how you can't hold down a man. They'll go and watch a whole bunch of YouTubers like Taylor the Fiend. Shout out to Taylor the Fiend. If you want to read about stories about women like Betty who can't hold down a man and become spinsters as their ovaries dry up, then you can go and watch Taylor the Fiend talk about women hitting the wall. Now, if you want that interspersed with a story about housekeeping questions, you can go and buy the Steven Spielbergo porno version of my story, stolen by two upstart editors. You can do that. No matter telling yourself that your story's important, Betty, will alter how thin a veneer your name will go down in history as. Betty the spinster with her big feet who can't hold down a man isn't going to capture people's imagination. I absolutely assure you. But there's no amount of time that will dissolve the theft that took place. Everybody knows what happened to my fifth draft. No matter suggesting that there was two books as my book was being stolen from me will alter the reality of what take place in my company. Describing my story. It's not your story, Betty. Your story is about not being able to hold down a man, and it's a common story of women who go and buy cats after failing to reproduce because they can't hold down a man.
don't know how that's possible in 2026. There's plenty of simps out there. How can you not hold a man?
Well, you have to ask her, but that's how the book starts. Anyway, but could it be that because she seems like says she's a Christian woman, so if you're a Christian, you should know, you should have a moral compass. We all have a moral compass, but when you profess to be a Christian, it should be fine tuned. No, so could it be that she was
Yeah.
deceived as to that the people that were editing your book because they were taking stuff from their website that it's now their book?
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Majority of the people who claim they're Christians, especially on the internet, they're usually atheists.
No, that's not true. How would you validate that?
Well, you can, but a lot of people say they're Christian, but they don't really do anything a Christian would do.
Well, they could appear to be atheist. What are you saying by their conduct? Well, let's remember that even though you profess to be a Christian, doesn't make you perfect. So yeah, Christians do make mistakes. Christians do make errors, and Christians do sin. We all sin. But my point is, your moral compass should be fine tuned, and you should be fine tuned enough to call out theft when you see a theft, not have somebody tell you their side of a story when there is no side. So that's my only point. But yeah, I can't wait for the book. So hopefully it'll be sometime in the next week.
I would hope so. So I missed most of that. UPS guy turned up to pick up the panel that I've taken off the wall behind me and reboxed in the box that came with the one that I've just got. So I didn't actually hear most of what you've just said. So
Well, what I was saying is she could have been deceived because, people come and they make statements like because the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan and, the Doors were on Ed Sullivan and so was Buddy Holly and the Crickets. But does that make Buddy Holly's song, Peggy Sue, and the Beatles song, She Loves You, and the Doors song, Light My Fire, Ed Sullivan's intellectual property? So when there's told things like that, they're very easily deceived. Now, you should be able to cut right through that bullshit and realize what's going on. It is such a horrible comparison, but this is what they're getting. So,
I mean, I don't care. Like I say, it's only when you've thieved something that you need to come up with comparisons and justifications for why material's in your possession. You won't ever hear me doing that, right? There's never going to be a circumstance where I have to justify my own existence and my story within housekeeping questions, flat earth debate, the 12 years I've spent coming to the conclusion that earth is measured flat. I'm not going to explain why I've acquired that story. It's just my story. But if you steal someone's story and repurpose it and then put a thin veneer about some big-footed woman who's got cats and can't hold down a man on top of it, then you're going to spend most of your time justifying out, no, this is definitely ours. Is it? I mean, why would you be justifying it? If it was yours, you wouldn't need to justify thieving it. Now you are, and you always will. The people who've stolen from me will always have tarnished goods for sale. There's nothing that's going to ever change that. You think justifying it helps? No, it's digging a grave that's even bigger and wider with every time you attempt to justify how you've purloined my material. That's all you've done. Now, in the meantime, I've had to go through the same process again, over and over again. Originally, it was 5 drafts by the time it was being stolen. It's now up to 9 drafts because I had to start essentially from fresh. Now, that was no bad thing because I've incorporated in the rhetoric that we're currently talking about at the top of this live show. That's Earth being measured flat in all circumstances, without exception, including but not limited to ball faith utilising said flat prerequisites to create the ball width. Now, am I justifying how I've got this information when I detail it concisely? No, there's no need to. Now, there's plenty of people out there that are excited to read about the journey through flat Earth. And as I say, if you want to learn about women who end up with cats, go and watch Taylor the Fiend.
I think Len wanted to say something.
Yeah, Glenn.
Bun's performing on a show. yeah, the show's not going to get the copyright to the song, but they own the copyright of that performance. And unless there's contracts made, it belongs to the show. But
Of course.
You lost your line.
No, he's saying if you produce, he's just listening to your comparison. I don't understand how the comparison's being used, but I understood Len's juxtaposition, which is to say, if you've got the Ed Sullivan show and it's got the Beatles on it, it's still the Ed Sullivan show with the Beatles on it. Like, so what? Does that mean that suddenly that the Beatles get the revenue stream from the Ed Sullivan show? No, of course not. That's utterly ludicrous.
No, they're claiming the songs that they wrote because they were in Ed Sullivan's room. Well, number one, let me break it down. They didn't write the song in Ed Sullivan's room. Okay, that's number one. They performed it there. Number two, another horrible comparison was freaking Shakespeare rented his place. So does that make Romeo and Juliet the intellectual property of the landlord? No, because you sign a lease and now that is your apartment until you move out. So whatever you do in there is your intellectual property. Whatever was done in the room of flat earth debate belongs to Nathan Oakley, 1980. If that has to be explained, then you're a retard.
They done it in service of Nathan. That's what we're all there for. It was explicitly stated, implicitly conjectured, and pretty much everyone audibleized their understanding while we were in that room.
Yeah, there's going to be an exception to that.
Now
there's
makes
exceptions.
you a liar.
Yeah, well, there's liars. Exactly. There's con men. Basically, what's happened, if you're an audience member and wondering what the bloody hell we're talking about, I was approached by two con men who said, "Hey, Nathan, we can help make your book better. We've read through it and we feel it needs better information, better references. We can make it into the ultimate reference guide. We would like to help you feed your family. We can assist you making this better." And I thought, oh, that's really nice. It instilled a huge amount of confidence in me. What kind souls to help me better my book. Those same people stole that book and have subsequently published it. Not only published it with the names that I came up with. Yeah? Now that's life. Yeah? D. Rose is good at describing how in the music industry, people stab each other in the back all the time. Yeah? Trying to relinquish other people of their intellectual property. Now there's going to be certain people out there who, in certain circumstances, have to defend their use of their own material. But ultimately speaking, no one ever questions how talented Michael Jackson is when he's in a courtroom, saying, yeah, of course I wrote this song, and then he starts beatboxing. Everyone's like in awe of Michael Jackson. That doesn't mean that there's not some thieving bastard who's dragged him into a courtroom. That's all it boils down to. People recognise Michael Jackson's talent and wanted a piece of it. Yeah? Wanted to put their veneer on top of it. Wanted to make housekeeping questions about a journey of discovery from a big-footed woman who ends up with cats, instead of it being about Nathan Oakley's show where thousands of repetitions of those questions have come out of these lips. Now, I'm not ever going to need to justify what I do in my book. Absolutely not. What I will do is detail the treachery and the betrayal of people who've decided that they want to thieve from me. Now, those people will inevitably have to, there'll be a necessity to justify what they have produced. Like, make it seem like it's theirs. That will haunt them. Me, I don't have any such problems. Go ahead.
How did they get a copy of your book originally before they told you they would help you out?
I gave it to them.
Okay.
To work on, after being asked.
Yeah.
Can we help you make this better? Yeah, of course you can. What's that? I never even had a book. What, the one that I was being offered help with that ended up being taken ownership by them? Apparently so.
He's been here before. Whoever just spoke, I know the voice. You know exactly what happened. So these questions, I don't know where they're coming from.
I don't recognize.
Well, I'm just wondering how they got a copy of it before they're telling us that, we're going to help you out.
I just told you. I gave it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an inference now that it didn't even exist. Yeah, like I never had a book to need helping with. Like I say,
Single one of those videos, there was always two books open: the one we were working on, and the one that that we were working from. Right, or drafts open.
Fourth draft and fifth draft. You mean?
Of the book.
Yeah, fourth and fifth draft.
Yes.
It both had my name on the top of them.
Right.
Every page. Let's just say that once more time in case anybody else out there says that I didn't have a book or that there was two books. Yeah, when MySpace was opened up to people who had offered me assistance to help me feed my family, there were two books on screen. One had Nathan Oakley's name on it, that was the fourth draft, and one had Nathan Oakley's name on it, that was the fifth draft. Just so we're absolutely clear. For anybody who suggests that because they've had their name superimposed on top of mine, it changes how useless they are at keeping a man, comparable to videos made by Taylor the Fiend. No, the story of Nathan Oakley and housekeeping questions will always be my story, no matter how much bullshit you lay down to justify theft. Because that's all it is. Theft. People who offered me assistance conned me. Now, that's my bad. That's an L that I'll have to take, but I'll say it with a smile, because I don't have to justify anything. Very shortly, I'll have my own version of my own story coming out that didn't have any assistive work offered by people who were suggesting they could help me and my daughters survive in a world that's very difficult. Flat Earth YouTubing. That's how it was sold to me by con artists. They now say there was no Nathan Oakley book. Really? So when I show pages with Nathan Oakley written on one draft and pages with Nathan Oakley written on the other, that's me not having one. Because my name's been changed to a woman named Betty. That's what's happened. That's what con men do. Confidence tricksters. Now they've convinced some spinster that my story's her story. It isn't.
See, when the word theft gets used...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gak.
Yeah, I will.
I was going to say, when the word theft gets used, sometimes you might feel a little empathy because someone, let's say they don't have food and they go steal, right? But I'd say if someone gets something from somebody that belongs to somebody else and tells them you're going to feed your family and they steal that, that's like more of like a scamming. That's like you're more of a scumbag for doing that. There's no justification.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, yes. That's how I described it too. It's called being a con man. What's the con? Well, the con was I was told I was going to receive assistance, and then that assistance was recorded and documented with constant assurance that I was being helped to feed my family. That same assistance was then purloined by the two con men and then had a thin veneer of a woman's story placed over the top of it. That's what happened. Now, you're saying when somebody's offered you assistance, suggested that they'll give you help for your family, and then stolen the very thing they were offering to help with, that's scummy. Yeah, absolutely correct. Yes. Now, there's a problem with that, which is to say someone like Neil, a very loyal and honest, decent man, sees that happen and turns around to people who offer the thieves support, financial or otherwise, and says, by extension, the company you keep, that's thieves and con men, reflect badly on you. Now, there's been several people who are in my inner circle who've come back to the circle like there's nothing that's happened. No, you're associating yourselves with men who've stolen from me and have made my life and my family's welfare very difficult under the banner of helping me. Now, you can see that however you like. I just see it exactly as it is. I was offered assistance and I was stolen from by the same people who offered it. Now, I can smile about it because I'm not money orientated. Yeah? My desire to keep YouTube subscriber bases high isn't outweighed by the need for truth. My ability to look down this camera barrel and tell you how it is without flinching. How I was stolen from. Now, some people might be embarrassed. When they get conned, it demonstrates their ignorance. My ignorance in this case was to not recognise thieving bastards offering help. That's my bad. That's an L. I've had to humble myself and have some humility. How stupid I was to not recognise these two con men that were just fixing to steal from me when they were telling me they were going to help my family better survive. They didn't. They caused about a 6 to 8 month delay on top of the time that they were alleging to help me. That's probably another 6 to 8 months on top of that. That's what they've done. They've cost me the better part of a year under the banner of helping me.
Whoa, Nathan, you're making it sound like somebody like Jaron or somebody like Bob Nodell offered to help. Somebody you had a casual, maybe you met them and you had a casual acquaintance with. These are people that sat on the freaking panel for years, Nathan. I mean, they offered help. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to think like the way you're thinking innocently. These are my friends. They're going to help me. So how you put that on you? I don't understand that. How could you have seen that? Yeah, in hindsight, you can see that, but there's no way you can put that together at the time it was happening.
Oh, well, you should.
I'm sorry.
No. I could disagree. So this is off the back of a similar sort of thing. When I compare the circumstances of some big-footed spinster who can't hold down a man, I'm getting these concepts from people like Taylor the Fiend and Pearl. If you're unfamiliar with Pearl, she's somebody who's been on things like Piers Morgan talking about how women's rights are a joke when it comes to them basically wanting to behave like men and not appreciating what men do in society that keeps women and their lives much easier. Now, hearing that from a woman is quite a difficult pill to swallow when you're watching someone like Pearl. Same goes for Taylor the Fiend. But all of these people are describing the same concept when it comes to women specifically who go after bad boys who are no good for them whilst going on social media and talking about how they want a good man. Like what, lower value, less attractive, less exciting men that you don't end up with. Now, you could argue by the same context that I shouldn't have recognised how friends fuck you over. That's comparable to women who go after the bad boys and then act all shocked and shaken when they don't want to pay child support and don't want to marry them. Well, because they've got loads of options and can go for any woman they like. You, the woman who's being criticised, should have recognised that when you chased after the bad boy. I should have recognised that people offering me an easier ride, that's to say less work, were just fixing to steal from me. They didn't want to help. They wanted to steal. That was me being naive. That's the word. Now, in retrospect, I can recognise my own naivety when it comes to not seeing how friends can very easily steal from you and then lie. Nathan didn't even have a book. That's called gaslighting. Who are they gaslighting? You. Me? I went, go away. What's that? You've got my 5th draft and you won't give it back to me. Keep it. All that'll ever happen is already happening. I get endless messages sent to me, not that I care, where somebody's saying to the thieves, is this the intellectual property you stole from Nathan Oakley? That will never go away. Ever.
That was yesterday, too, I think. It is true. People are harassing them. Maybe that's why they're giving answers. But anyway, yeah, it was. You could say it was naive, but yeah, and you should have had your antenna up, I guess. But you did in the beginning because you were resisting to help. You were like, I got a book, I'll release it. What the hell's going on? We talked you into it. So it really falls on us. Everybody that was in that room and was saying, yeah, we can make it better, we're responsible too. I'm sorry.
Nobody's responsible. The only people who are responsible are the people who have taken it upon themselves to offer help and then steal from me. There's a couple of individuals. But their penance is twofold. One, what you've stolen will always be labelled as the book you stole, because it is. And number two, you no longer get to be a part of this group. As much as I want to detach myself from flat Earth, which has nothing to do with Earth measurement, this, right now, still is a social circle. Now, while Neil says, but they were sat on the panel for years. What, so they should have a higher degree of trust? They did. That's how they managed to con me. But now they're not. And that's the real punishment. The money that gets developed from the book, the losses that were incurred from having an extra 12 months spent producing material that ultimately got stolen, doesn't alter what we all secretly desire. Social acceptance. Have they received it? No. For one of them, It's multiple times that one of them's been excluded from groups, isn't it? So it's a pattern. Some people are just fundamentally untrustworthy, unlikable, and ultimately get excluded from groups. Now, that person's no different. They ultimately seek social acceptance. They haven't got it. They've been excluded, dismissed, sacked. Nobody likes that feeling. That's the reality. Out of pride, they've decided to rebel and go ahead and produce material that they'll always get called thieves for. That's their punishment. But it ultimately means that the fox has been removed from the hen house. That's all it means. But if you were quite comfortable in the hen house, getting warm and cozy with all the hens, now you're in the dark and now you're hungry. And all you're getting is people scorning you for theft. That's all that's ever going to happen to those two people. They've been excluded from a group that they were socially interacting with on a regular basis and have been deemed thieves and con men as a consequence of their own actions. You have no responsibility in that. Why wouldn't you advise help? That makes perfect sense. If somebody comes along who's trustworthy in a social circle that's built up trust and offers to help me personally, why wouldn't I say yes? Of course. Doesn't mean I shouldn't have had my antenna up. You're right too, Neil. But you don't deserve any blame for encouraging me accept assistance. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you suggest that was the right move to make? No guilt is ever going to be imparted on anybody who's on the sidelines. After the fact, it's different. Just one last point. After the fact, now, while I can smile and just say, yeah, that book's always going to be tainted though, isn't it? The one that's got my title and my material and was originally produced in my space with my drafts with my name on both of them. What's that? There was a second book that wasn't mine? I don't really remember talking about Betty and how she can't hold down a man while we spent a year editing my material into a fifth draft format that got stolen. But I mean, obviously you can tell yourself that, but it's just perpetuating the problem for them. It's tainted and always will be. So, let them have it. They're ultimately kicked out. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference to us any further. They were never really our friends, were they?
I guess not. But what I'm saying is we could have got more involved. Like it automatically, like it grown into just Adam and QE taking the lead. And out of respect, we allowed that. I mean, there was a lot of times I wanted to say something. I said, it's Adam and QE. They're doing it. They got Nathan's, they got Nathan's trust and they got good intentions towards him. So we took a back seat and we allowed this to go on. And then we joked around about ghostwriters a little too much. So it was a perfect storm leading to what they did. And we just should have been more aware. I started becoming aware and I stopped joking about the ghostwriter thing because I know that how that could play on somebody's ego. That's all I mean by having some of the responsibility.
Yeah. Wow.
I wish I'd have been more vocal in my concerns. So
Exactly.
I feel some responsibility. Because I was concerned about it. About the fourth week into it, I started feeling real weird about the whole thing. So I stopped showing up as much.
Yeah, what the hell, John?
What?
It's your fault. Well done.
But yeah, the product now is far superior. The extra revisions, I think it's a much better book.
Oh, yeah.
Worked out better for us. And Karma's already having its effect on one of the thieves. I saw something about someone's kitchen getting ruined and whatnot. Maybe that's just coincidence, or maybe it's karma.
Hey, listen, what goes around comes around. That's a fact. The Bible says what you sow is what you reap.
I don't know about that. It rains on the just and the just alike. So,
Yeah.
But it's not related.
No, but what I'm saying is you can't. Hold on a second. If you're sowing seeds of corn, you're not going to get freaking spinach. So what you sow is what you reap. That's the bottom line. Yes, the sun does shine in the good and the bad.
Yeah, Dan, I know it.
Hey, Oakley.
Yes.
I got to run for a bit, but I was gonna say we got to get you on this worldwide debates and some globe discourse to
Here we
promote
go.
your book.
Okay, I covered this in the pre-show just before you disappear. So the last time I went there, some of the participants attempted to have my channel removed. Were you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just to put it into metaphor, there's what's the rough part of New York called? Is it the Bronx?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to the Bronx and you have your trainers stolen, your phone stolen, and your ass kicked. And someone turns around to you and says, you should come down to the Bronx more often. Could you understand why someone would say, no, I'm all right, thanks?
No, I understand what you're saying, and I get you're going to war, but don't worry, you'll be prepared.
Why would I don't need to go to war? There's nothing.
It will be good for the book.
No, it won't. Going out to people who are pleasant will be good for the book. If you receive an email from me, if you receive my press release that describes the book and says I'd like to talk to you about it, that's generally because I've deemed you a nice person. That's to say I would enjoy spending time in your company. Now, don't get me wrong. 9 times out of 10, those press releases will be met with silence. That is to say the person won't give a toss that I value their time and their opinion because they don't necessarily value mine. But for the 1 in 10 that say, oh yeah, I also would value spending time in your company so that we can discuss this. Now, it might be heated in the discussion, but it'll still be enjoyable for the most part, as was the case with a lot of the servers that I frequented. For the most part, they were pleasant, right up until the point that somebody in those servers decides that I'm a racist because I've said the word nigger, because somebody's played it into my live stream and I've tried to defuse the use of the word by a racist. But by repeating it, I've been deemed racist and banned. At which point you go, okay, I don't want to come back to your server if that's how you want to view me using a word. Not my hatred of black people. There is no hatred. But my use of a word. That means I don't want to be around that person anymore. Likewise, if you were using a word in a public store and suddenly you had handcuffs on you, you'd be like, I don't want to come back to this store again. I've been persecuted for using a word in the English language and now I'm in a police cell. I'm never coming back to this store. So the servers that have been that way inclined aren't necessarily going to be over-enthralling me in having that, join them and offer them my time. No thanks. I'd rather spend my time in the company of pleasant people. And most of the servers that I end up not going back to have deemed themselves unworthy of my company. Now you might go, oh, well, how dare you see yourself as so grandiose as to value your own frickin' time? No, I don't want to be around unpleasant people who'd suggest that my kids should be taken away from me, my YouTube channel should be shut down, they should be justified in putting endless complaints in YouTube, maybe making endless bogus copyright strikes against me, maybe playing pornography into my live streams in the hope that I won't be able to feed my kids tomorrow. I'd rather just not be around those people. There are plenty of pleasant people in the world. And if you're one of them,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, for the book, like, at the end of the day, who cares if it's a Glober buying it or a flat earther, right? You just want people to buy the book, but yeah, it's not going to be easy, and I'm not saying these people are pleasant, but just here and there, like once in a while, going in there,
I have done. I've just explained this. I do go in there once in a while, up until the point that somebody suggests that my career should be relinquished from me. Why would I ever go around those people again? Literally. You give me a justifiable reason why. Somebody who suggested that my YouTube channel, the thing I use to feed my kids, should be taken away from me. Why would I ever spend time in those people's company ever again? Give me one justifiable reason.
Yeah, I guess logically you're right, but
not always about money. Like, I get what you're saying. I'll just lean into what you've said. You've said, right, if I go to these servers, there's a good chance that me telling a group of people whilst broadcasting live that I've got a book called Measured Flat that they can purchase and listen or read about how Earth gets measured flat. And some of them will buy it. Therefore, I'll generate revenue which will help me feed my kids and pay the mortgage. It's not just about that, though. There are more things to life than money. Being around pleasant people is prioritised by me over and above the money. Having a justifiable reason to get in touch with people with a press release was actually my end goal. So the ends are the ability to say to somebody who I wouldn't have ordinarily contacted, I've got a reason to sit in front of you and talk to you. It's this. Measured Flat. It's a book that I've written about how Earth is actually measured. It's flat. I want to tell you about it because I value your time. I think you're a pleasant person. That's a justifiable reason, even if that particular interaction resulted in no sales. It meant that I had a justifiable excuse to ask the person to spend time in their company. That to me is utterly invaluable, more so than the end result of sales. Just the justifiable reason to contact them and say, I need to talk to you. As we slagged him off in the pre-show, perfect example of this would be Dave Weiss. Very hard-working flat earther, end quote. That's how I describe him in the book, albeit under a fake name. But Dave Weiss is a very hard-working flat earther. He's got a product to sell, his app, and he goes out there religiously and sells it. But because he's got a product to sell, he can put himself in the company of certain YouTubers. He can sell his product. Now, for Mark Sargent, it's a similar sort of thing with his Flat Earth clues. He's got something he can sell. Something he's produced that's available. Now, in the case of Mark Sargent, it's free. In the case of Dave Weiss, there's a ticket value. In the case of me from my book, there'll also be a dollar amount attached to that privilege if you want to take it. But the discussion itself will benefit people when I'm out and about promoting the book. Now, if I'm around people who just say, I want your kids taken away, I want to shut down your channel, I'm going to put in bogus complaints, I'm going to sort you out with a few bogus copyright claims, I'm going to play racial slurs into your video, I'm going to play porno over the sound of Discord while you're broadcasting. I don't want to be around those people. Not at all. It's not worth the few bucks that I'll get out of the few book sales that I'll generate from being in a server like that. It's just, the juice is just not worth the squeeze. That, we've done an hour. We didn't cover the video we were going to cover today. We'll have to cover that tomorrow. I did have a video all queued up about distorting globe maps into flat projections, but we'll cover that tomorrow, I believe. For the record, I've suggested to the people who want to get these things off their chest, right? A lot of people feel wronged on my behalf, which is touching, because I've been stolen from. And in the back rooms that are connected to this show, there's people who are, on one hand, uncomfortable with this fact. Someone's stolen from somebody they know, me. And they don't want to discuss it. Others are very vocal about how utterly dismayed they are with the betrayal. Neil's the most vocal of them all. And I had to say to both of them, not two individuals, but both sides of this particular viewpoint, you're both right. I can understand how you don't want to get involved with someone else's theft of someone else's material. Why should you be? And I can totally empathise. It's like, most people don't care. They're apathetic to other people's causes. I totally get it. Why should you concern yourself? On the other hand, there's going to be people who feel that it's an extension of a betrayal of them when they've sat alongside them. And I can totally understand that too. And I've encouraged both. So if you want to detach yourself from an awkward situation because it feels uncomfortable to discuss, then I'm not going to force you to feel like you've got to discuss it. I'm not your mum. I'm not going to give you a moral compass in that regard when we're talking about the absolutes of flat earth measurements. That's the main focus of the show. But along the journey of discovery to reach the absolutes of flat earth measurements, there is always going to be the social interactions and the betrayals. The people who con you and suggest that they're going to help you and then steal from you. And there's going to be people who want to vocalise their, what's the opposite of indifference? Their outrage towards this circumstance. And I'll encourage that too. That's part of what we do here. There's always been an element of that within the social hierarchies and structures that flat Earth is deemed to be. That's, for the most part, what it's engineered to be, so that we all whistle past flat Earth measurements. And to suggest that that isn't an aspect of flat Earth would be a shortfall on my part, to not recognise how things like deceit, things like betrayal, things like theft, in this case, my 5th draft being stolen from me, and having a thin veneer of a woman named Betty being superimposed on top of it. Those are the things that we do actually face in the real world, and they're interesting. You know, admittedly lowbrow. The lowbrow conversation, or the lowest of lowbrow, is to talk about people. To talk about events would be middle of the road. To talk about the concepts and the ideas, that's flat Earth being a prerequisite in all circumstances. That's the other end of the scale. But the 2 or 3 are intertwined. Events, people, and ideas. They're all intertwined. And there's going to be people of the audience that find fascination in all 3. Some will only be interested in the people. Some will only be interested in the events. Some will only be interested in the ideas.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would give them a moral compass, because for those that want to turn a blind eye and walk away from it, you just remember that your neighbor's plight will soon be your own. If you don't stand up for what's right when something bad happens, then you have allowed evil to prevail.
Indeed. And on that sombering note, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
And they try to justify. Same thing with Chocolate. I'm sorry. Chocolate's been on the panel years. He's dancing in the dark. He's dancing on the dirty side. I got no use for you. That tells me what you're about.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. I was talking about that with my wife, actually, earlier this morning. And her attitude was like, you kind of got to be accepting of both positions. Start superimposing your problems and your life onto others who are just there to gather up information. Even if they are on the panel, then you're being unreasonable. But by the same token, you've got to accept that there's going to be people out in their justifiable outrage that want to express their justifiable outrage to your audience when you're live. And you can't stop them either. You've got to kind of have both. You've got to be able to, it's almost like cognitive dissonance. You've got to be able to accept both positions simultaneously, even though they're incongruent with one another. On the one hand, you want to tell the guy who's over supporting the people who've stolen from you that they're disgusting and it's a poor reflection on them. And why haven't they stood up for the truth? On the other hand, you go, well, who am I to you? Yes, you've been on my panel talking about flat Earth. That doesn't mean that you owe me a debt of gratitude when it comes to defending my home. You're not the police. So why would I expect that?
No, it's not. It's just pretty in a circle. I made that clear the other day. People have been here for years. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. But hey, that's you. I can do it.
Well, no, I do it too. I just can't necessarily do it publicly. And if I do, I've got to skirt the line quite carefully. That's why I sent you that Carl Jung video. Like I say, when people find it uncomfortable because you're forcing it upon them, number one, I don't want to alienate my audience. For the most part, as a YouTuber, you don't. It doesn't mean I'm going to not face the awkward reality when it comes to a concession or a humble pie that I've got to eat with regards to the subject. That's just honesty. Now, if people don't like that, then they're not worthy of your company either. But when it comes to this particular circumstance, it's like, no, I will grant you your outrage and agree with it and tell you that the people who say, no, I don't really like this, can we just move on? You're like, yeah, what you're doing is reacting to the reflection. You don't like how you don't want to relinquish your friendship with thieves, but that's what it boils down to. Now, I realise that that's going to make certain people uncomfortable when I go, okay, well, you're just hanging around with people who've stolen from me. How do you want me to feel about you when you come back? You're like, oh, how's it going? Are you having fun with the people who stole from me? You know what I mean? I can't do that because I'll alienate everybody.
Yeah, you can, but I can. You got to be Nathan Oakley. I got to be Neil. I said, what the frick is wrong with you? What are you, stupid? They robbed from Nathan. This is very simple. You don't go freaking dance in their camp. Yeah, you got guys like Jin. Yeah, he's going to love it over there. That's what he wants. He wants to be the Globe Terminator. He wants to be Rambo Jin. So, of course, he's going to go over there. I'm still waiting for him to bring up the scientific method over there, see how they greet him with that.
Yeah, with time, this will fade, right? Ultimately speaking, the memory of old participants of the show fades with time. And that's the real punishment.
Oh, so you're saying pretty soon they're just going to be so distant that you're not even going to be able to make out who they were?
Yeah. Like the Gautier song. Now you're just somebody I used to know.
And you get hit with wisecrack remarks. Easter's in 11 months. So how am I supposed to respond to that, Nathan? You tell me.
I don't know what you mean.
Somebody responds. Somebody said Easter's 11 months. That's a smack in the face because your date was set for around the Easter release. So basically they're saying, yeah, Easter's in 11 months. So I take that as an insult.
I don't care. I don't really understand still. Me saying that I would hope to get it finished by Easter, we did.
Yeah, now they're saying Easter's 11 months away. So in other words, I guess it's next Easter. Kind of like saying, yeah, you're never going to come out with a book. Stupid shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fixing to market and pitch your car at SEMA and you spend 12 months producing the car and then someone thieves it and then turns around and say, I guess you won't be there till next year. You're like, okay. So what, you got ahead of the game by stealing someone else's car? But everybody at SEMA kept asking you if the car that was on your stand was the stolen car. So do you think that looks good?
Yeah, CC was in there. I guess he was there, so he was sending stuff at Master B. I was like, wow, they must be giving him a hard time over there in the chat.
Go ahead, bro.
Oh, what's up, CC? Yeah, so how did it go over there? They were giving him a rough time?
Yeah, I'm just observing and listening, and I'm giving you the notes of everything from Rachel's nonsense and Betty feeding the chat at one point the stupid crap, how it was never Nathan's book, and the same old crap, like, that you said about, oh, Nathan's just playing games, and it was never his book, and how threatening, Nathan towards copyright and crap. Man, get out of here. All you have to do is go to that quote from Adam. Yeah, meeting of brilliant minds from different fields, but it's Nathan's book. You're done. Yeah, I could go on as well because it was funny, the rebuttals from supposedly NDT and the email note towards John Stunges and Adam Meekin's stolen material about the Sea Sparrow and the Black Swan and everything. It's like, yeah, that gets into a gaggle screw too, that the spear-shaped air ducting across the waters to keep the temperature. And then when he brings up angle, you know how the alarm bells go off about us. When did you just say angle?
Wait a second. Yeah. So they walked right past all the flat Earth prerequisites? Really?
Yeah, it's still NDT's. It's still NDT's response. In the letter, they just walk. That's what they do. That's what's unique about us. We give
the measurements of how the Earth is flat and the antecedent of the Earth being a horizontal plane, and you want to bring up what it's not and anti-globe rhetoric, and then NDT's response is still towards, the changing so-so stories for more so-so stories. It's comical at a point. I mean, I can go back over my Master Beat, notes, but yeah, they're full of crap. And there comes a point, guys, where, yeah, they're just going to be removed from our lives. And like Nathan said, that they're just even going to be a memory. If that's who you are, yes, you reap what you sow.
Agreed. So if they're talking about the sea sparrow, right, and they're talking about the height being 100 feet, so they could fly under the detection of the radar. 100 feet.
Yeah.
Under
Huh?
feet.
The 35-mile distance it traveled.
Huh?
Whoa. Put the brakes on, pal. Yeah, that's a linear distance from our flat Earth.
Yeah, it's true with all of the old school housekeeping questions. They all become feasts of nonsense. What you're describing is a sea too far. So in the case of the sea sparrow, there's an old school flat Earth, actually anti-globe rhetoric that says the sea sparrow, if we ignore the flat Earth linear distance in miles, there should be, but isn't, an Earth curve blocking your view when you paint a target at 35 miles. What do we say today? We don't need any of that shit. 35 miles is measured flat. Go and look at a map. Have you never seen a scale before? Who gives a shit about what the sea sparrow does? Let's take a different example. If the Earth was a sphere, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon in this image of oil rigs is beyond the geometric limitations of 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles. Really? Okay. So if the Earth was a sphere, that's a begging the question fallacy that immediately whistles past that the assumption of an Earth with a spherical radius requires you measure the radius with an angle from a flat Earth. But if we ignore that to suggest in a begging the question fallacy that Earth is a sphere, and we will ignore how flat Earth is measured to achieve said begging the question fallacy, then we can infer that a distance to the horizon, what's a distance? Oh, well, it's a flat linear measurement in miles or kilometres. Well, let's ignore that flat Earth prerequisite too. We've got a modus tollens to get through here. It'll take forever. Okay, well, the distance to horizon in flat Earth miles, I mean in a mile that we won't mention how flat it is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's measured height off sea level. Hold on. So before we get to the conclusion of this logical consistency, we need to infer a distance along a flat horizontal planar surface measured with flat horizontal linear miles, and to derive a calculation that we're later going to say doesn't exist, we've got to measure our height off a flat surface level measured with an average called sea level, perpendicular in an altitude with respect to sea level, to say that we won't see Earth curve. Well, this sounds like a load of convoluted old shit. Meanwhile, we measure our height off flat Earth. Meanwhile, the distance is a flat Earth prerequisite. Anything else? Do we need any of this modus tollens shit? No, we don't really, do we? We've got horizontal linear distances that we're going to have to infer in this logical consistency, and then ignore how flat they are, so we can get to the end of the conclusion that there's oil rigs with, how far are they again? Oh, a measured flat distance away? Yeah. When you're doing this day in, day out, you remain on the cutting edge, not because you've got a superior intellect to everybody else. Everybody here is pretty smart, let's be honest. None of us are dumbos, right? None of us are going to be struggling when it comes to comprehension. But that's not why we're on the cutting edge. It's because slow is the wheel that turns. In this case, recognition of this information comes from looking at it every single day, like going into an art gallery and studying a masterpiece. You go in and you first see the overall image and you get a general impression of what's being created. But if you're staring at that image every day for 12 years and discussing the intricate details of every single brushstroke every single day, then you know the nuances and intricacies of the piece, inside out and back to front. And when you can concisely summarise it, because you've detailed it to the guests who also come through the art gallery, and you've done it over and over and over again, you end up with a concise nature to your rhetoric that cannot be surpassed, simply because you're doing it so often. Now, there's going to be people out there that don't want to spend their day after day after day dealing with this, but still want to steal the valour of that slow cognitive process and essentially ascribe their own fart-sniffing superiority to it. Now, while I can bleat and moan about people stealing valour from the show, I'm simultaneously, in current rhetorical terms, decrying it, undermining my own fart-sniffing appreciation for the artwork when I say it made no difference how well I verbalised this artwork. It was on the wall, being beautiful, regardless of my verbalisation. It existed and would have existed had I have not even been born. Had I not explained its beauty to a single guest, it would still be hung on the wall. Earth, by comparison, would still be flat, regardless of me accepting some fart-sniffing credit for being on the tippy tip of the edge of this blade of flat Earth understanding. So what? Understanding what? That which was always being measured flat anyway? Wowee.
Well, Nathan, it's going to be relevant and it's going to mean something to people that still want to be the top dog, you know? You can't just say measured flat. I mean, I got to get through this stuff. I spent years on it.
You don't have to. Like I say, you can say, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, and then when someone like me goes, well, your radius of 3959 is derived from a minimum elevation angle to Polaris. So before we've even got halfway through the starting half of the modus tollens, we need to derive a radial value to infer by begging the question that Earth is spherical. And that leads anybody who does primary source research to the fact that it's measured flat to make that inference of sphericity, violating the base principle of the measurement that's used to make the inference, making the inference void. Do I need to say how much Earth curve ain't getting in the way in a flat Earth distance from a flat Earth height when the conception of a sphere with a radius comes from flat Earth measurements anyway? No. But if you want to just power on through without recognising how flat you need Earth to be measured, you be our guest. But all you're doing is massaging your own ego. That's all you're doing.
Exactly. A lot of that going on.
And I do break that down. I break down the modus tollens in the book in terms of how flat and linear the distance is, how high you are off surface level, how flat Earth must be measured to derive a radial value, to walk through an inference that there's too far a distance to be seen. Far being a measurement that's flat also. Too far requires you understand implicitly how flat Earth measurements function. Or you can ignore them. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff to get through here.
Nathan, you find yourself arguing about a distance to something that's never been defined as physical, when you could just point out that we have got a physical rig, and that has got a distance to it and a height above sea level.
Precisely.
No. We got to talk about the horizon that's beyond that point, because that proves that it's not a globe.
Yeah, as I'm sure you're well aware, having listened to the book being produced through all 9 drafts, including the 5th one that was stolen, we do take the reader through the process of recognising these complex arguments for what they are. A reason to shy away from investigation and assume that someone with a brighter mind than your own has got it figured out. And that's what the flat earthers wanted to take ownership of. Well, I'll be that brighter mind. I'll be that intellectual superiority for you as you transition from globe to flat. We'll show you how it isn't a globe, because we know, we've studied. Now, the expense, cognitively speaking, that people ignored globe Earth for will simultaneously be the reason why they warm to a recognition of the simplistic flat Earth measurement facts, because they aren't cognitively expensive to understand, as I laid out on today's live show. It's not cognitively expensive to go, yeah, I understand our miles are flat. Like my surveying example today when I'm talking about buying land. Nobody's ever going to turn around and go, no, I need to apologise for how globe-shaped it is. No, you don't. It's just measured that way when you buy the land. There's nothing cognitively expensive about it. Nobody's making this more complicated than it needs to be. When it comes to Earth measurements, it isn't cognitively expensive. It's very simple. It's just measured flat. No complications. Every normie out there can understand it. It's been engineered to seem complicated. Heliocentrism being the global side of the discussion that we thought we were in. Anti-globism being the conspiratorial retort. You break all of that down when you go, no. The normies will understand this. You don't need to explain it with a modus tollens that infers the lack of sphericity when deriving radial values from flat Earth measurements and punching flat Earth values of height and distance into curve calculators to show how they're not working. That's too cognitively expensive for most people, like heliocentrism was. When you go, yeah, miles flat, kilometres flat, scales and maps are flat. People will go, yeah, I understand that. It's not very complicated. Don't need to invest any time in it. I understood before you finished the sentence. That's what people want. People want an easy life. People don't want complicated stuff to have to wrap their head around. People don't want that.
But some of them like arguing, don't they, Nathan? They want to keep it out. Well, that was an argument in the first place, but they want to fight and argue. That's they've been doing it for years, and for some reason they can't let it go.
Yeah, because they've invested in it. They've become no better than their opponents on the flat Earth side because they've invested in the same boring shit that the people who they were opposing invested in. The people who are telling you that they needed to fight against the flat Earth were actually saying we need to fight against people who say they understand heliocentrism but don't really. Well, when it reaches a level that people like us understand heliocentrism as well, if not better, than the heliocentric purveyors and priests, then suddenly we're in exactly the same position as our fart-sniffing opponents, lording it over next man because we understand heliocentrism better than you do. And Neil said it in today's and yesterday's show. He's gone in and witnessed people go, oh, you're a globe believer. You tell me how big the radius is. Oh, you don't know how fast we're spinning. That's because I'm more intelligent than you, dweeb. We know how fast you think Earth's spinning, and we can show you how it isn't. Ha ha ha. You're like, oh, really? You're just an unpleasant person now. You're just as unpleasant as the globe-sniffing, fart-sniffing dweebs, betas and gammas that you were bracing against. Is it really the case that you wanted to become them? Because you have.
And the more you talk about the globe, I'm sorry, the more you're keeping it alive. The more you keep saying that, this globe, and how fast is the globe spinning? What's the radius of this globe? You're keeping it fresh. Why are you talking to people about a globe if you're a flat earther?
That's how it's been orchestrated. Get the conspiratards to come and have the fart sniffers tell them how they don't understand how it's spinning at a certain rate, forcing the conspiratard to start investigating how the globe works so they can show how it doesn't. Then everybody's speaking about the globe and nothing else. Everybody gets to whistle past the flat Earth measurements as they use them to show they don't work, or to show they do work. Look, I can see for this distance if I imply that there's an infinite over 6 radial value refraction that I superimpose on top of the flat Earth measurements everybody's ignored. What's that, 7 over 6 radius? Where do we get the R value number from? oh, well, we just measure Earth flat for that, but nobody's going to talk about that bit. We need to all measure Earth flat and ignore how flat it got measured so we can argue about how ball-shaped it is or isn't. And you need an exemplary understanding as a flat earther of heliocentrism. You're a flat earther. Don't you know how the ball works to show how it doesn't? That's your job. You're a flat earther. Meanwhile, the mapping channel's talking about linear distances and scales on maps being flat and how they're millimetre accurate with respect to sea level. You know what I mean? They're not even involved in the discussion because they're just measuring Earth flat.
Without a care in the world, he's just going about his business, right?
Right, I'm going to disappear for 2 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves.
You can't get around the measurements. I mean, you can try, and I've been finding that people that do know, they still don't like talking about the measurements because it's a finality. Now, once you talk about that, you speak about gravity. How can you speak about Earth rotation? How can you speak about anything? Even gas pressure without containment. How can you even bother speaking about that? So I think they just leave the measurement in the background. Right? If we need it, we'll pull it out. But we have to be able to keep a show going. So we're going to keep all these little things alive. The way it sounds to me.
Yeah, you're right, Neil. Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to talk about the measurements. Painful.
Because that's a finality. When you know something, all right, it's supposed to be a flat Earth debate. We know how it's measured, and that's flat. They told everybody to go home. No. We can't have that. Still got to discuss gravity. I mean, it was Einstein's theory of relativity that we got to pull apart. No. I mean, the astronauts did drop a feather and a hammer at the same time, and, you know, they both went down at the same rate. What the hell does that have to do with flat Earth?
The down? What's it going down to? Oh, yeah. In reality, it's going down to the horizontal plane of reference of our flat Earth, perpendicular, 90 degrees, vertical to the horizontal plane.
Right. That you need when you describe down.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I go to the height of any particular object. Yeah, that'll be measured also as well.
Same thing. You need to describe height. Yes, that's correct. You need that horizontal baseline to describe it from. It doesn't matter which way you turn. So somebody in chat said, number one proof of flat Earth is a bunch of periods, like it's a joke, like we don't have any. I said everything.
Yeah, that's what I said too. When that was brought up and we were all jumping on pitch data, which it is Bosch, I was in the chat going, they all are. The Earth measured flat. They're just all harmonious. Whether you bring up pitch data, whether you bring up an aviation instrument, whether you bring up surveying, whether you bring up celestial navigation, whether you bring up the chartering of our world, whether you bring up how it's built upon, yeah, it's all measured flat. Anyone ever that's ever done it will be requiring the antecedent of the Earth being a horizontal plane and level for you to get all those measurements.
One deck. Any new poems in the works? I mean, I figured your creative mind would be going crazy at this point. Something like Two Thieves and Bigfoot?
Bigfoot.
Nice.
Yeah, I do.
That's fun.
I admit I do quite like hearing the stories of how these people have started to buy their own bullshit. It does quite amuse me. It's immediately countered with the reality and truth of the situation, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of strange, though. Like, I guess that's true that you start to believe your own lies. You keep saying a lie and you start to believe it, that it's a reality.
Yeah, these folks enveloping themselves with their deception in their lives as though it's reality. No.
Yeah, you'll say something like, pray tell, how could I steal something that belongs to me? Pray tell, can someone please logically explain to me how I could steal something that belongs to me? And you'll start believing it.
Yeah, just continue to whistle past the graveyard of the contradiction you just invoked.
First, you've got to stick on your black and white stripy jumper, remove your window, then a few more steps, then call the police or pretend to call the police.
Talking about the story of having a drug den burgled. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that could be. Maybe Len's talking about that. I'm talking about how a certain party said, just I guess he was answering somebody in chat when they said, "Isn't that Nathan's book you stole?" He said, "How can you steal something that's yours?" So I guess he's referring to this freaking website. I don't know. You start to believe your own lies.
See, that is the beauty of it. There are folks that they haven't been around for a few months, a couple months, and then they come into the chat. And then, God bless them, they're not dumb. They're just like, wait a minute here. Isn't it Nathan's book? And then the web that Betty and the others are starting to feed them, that no. And then, yeah. And they actually, by God, could sniff through the bull crap. Yeah. It's just automatically assuming that folks that are coming are just going to be dumb and not know. It's like, wait a minute here. You were just helping your friend. Now all of a sudden you're the authority?
Yeah, you'll have Betty come in and say, it was never Nathan's book. You can't make that shit up.
Yeah, that's why at a point I'm laughing. Including Rachel's comments too, towards measurements are a straw man. That's the same laughable crap like with Brenda. Measurements are not evidence. You're straight delusional.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to people saying things like measurements are a straw man or words to that effect, it's like, well, okay, don't use them. The reality here is that you're not consequential when it comes to this subject. Rachel, right? Is she doing anything consequential with Earth? Is she navigating to shore in a boat? Is she producing maps? Is she building anything? No. Another spinster. You're like, why have you got an opinion in this? You don't have any skin in this race at all. But you're offering your opinion, like the measurements that are used by people to produce maps, and indeed a ball, are a straw man according to, what, a YouTuber? Some single mother? Like, who gives a fuck? Nobody cares what your opinion is in this matter. Why are you expressing it? All right, a straw man of measurements. Okay, go away. Like, go away to someone that actually values your opinion when you're not doing any of this stuff. Do you remember when they used to say, well, are you measuring Earth? No, I'm not. No, it's already been done. By people who produce the maps with the flat scales on them, with the miles on them. That wasn't me measuring anything. But it is measured that way. Oh, measurements are a straw man. Sorry, were you measuring it? You saying it's anything is meaningless. Like, you don't have any skin in this race. None of us do. We've been put here as conspiratards to devalue the measurements that are in existence for anybody who's measuring Earth anyway. Like with miles. You're not measuring it. You haven't produced the mile. You haven't come up with the concept. You've not produced any maps. You're not the arbiter of any scales. I doubt Rachel's ever even gone out and done any orienteering, let alone needed to find a way home by measuring distance on a map or using horizontality for directionality so that the map makes sense when moving in a certain direction. I doubt she even owns a map. But yet she's coming along and telling you it's a straw man. Oh, really? Sorry, do you want to explain how you've got any consequence to this subject, Rachel?
Found it interesting that LVA Paul was over there and Betty welcoming him there. I'm like, does he realize? Anyway,
that's what I'm talking about. You coming back months later and stuff, and you don't know what the hell from heaven there. And then, yeah, I could bring up also too. It was laughable too. Her refraction comments and stuff. And I keep going at it in her what is this, no Atmo day? It's yeah, we got to remove the air and then the incident angle and it's super refraction. It's just like from NDT's comment and stuff. It's just laughable when you have to hand wave dismiss all the measurements you required from our flat Earth.
What do you mean NDT? Well, because I'm lost.
Okay.
So what would I do?
NDT needs height and distance to infer a boat's falling over the edge, right? He still needs to measure miles for where the edge is alleged to be linear in horizontal terms for distance, but he also needs to put that through the calculator with height off surface level. So what CC is saying is Neil deGrasse Tyson is also in requirement of a prerequisite flat Earth to measure to make his claim make sense.
No, I'm not understanding who NDT is. So what were they doing?
Neil deGrasse
NDT.
Tyson.
I understand his name, but what were they doing? A video? Were they reviewing something he said?
Okay, yeah, they were.
Oh, okay.
A big chunk of it was reviewing his response to the Sea Sparrow, and I'll make it clear, and the Black Swan. The later part, of course, I'm here with the replay for Nathan and modding. But yeah, all that initial stuff was toward, the Black Swan and in the stolen material.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson has an answer for the Black Swan.
Yeah,
he
that's why I kept,
Whoa.
That's what I'm getting from that letter that they put on screen, that it was a supposed rebuttal from relax, Christian. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So is he?
I can go back over the notes here of his supposed response to the Sea Sparrow and the Black Swan.
I wonder when he's going to give a rebuttal to measurement. He'll deal with the Black Swan all day long. What's his answer for measurement?
Yeah. Is it going to be the imaginary spear-shaped air ducting across the Earth for the missile traveling in a horizontal linear distance across our flat Earth?
Yeah, but you could, that's what I'm saying. You could freaking do whatever you want with the Black Swan. You can get into the fallacies with them. But what can you do with a measurement? There's no refuting a measurement.
Yeah, you end up saying asinine things like it's a straw man or it's not evidence. When you require it for your glob belief.
See, that's what's wrong. A measurement is evidence.
Well, hold on. I have to go down the notes towards NDT, but I'm referring to like Rachel in the chat with her no Atmo day crap. In measurements or a straw man.
Well, what happened with her is she went and started hanging out with Globers. So when you hang out with Globers, feed you their rhetoric. And, if you're not understanding what a measurement is, you'll get pulled away by everything like freaking refraction or atmosphere. We live in an atmosphere. Really? I thought we live in a contained environment because we're breathing air.
Oh, yeah. Then you'll deny the laws of thermodynamics and gas laws and where the gas pressure is, all in respect and measured from the horizontal plane of our flat Earth. Well, no, never mind that stuff. We're gonna take you on over to Narnia. Get your fur coat ready.
Even that, I'm starting to agree with one deck on that. What does that have to do with flat Earth? Oh, you're debunking a globe, right? Because their vacuum can't sit next to a freaking globular Earth without being contained. Okay, so we're back to that.
Yeah, if you don't go towards the flat Earth measurements, you'll just be staring down the barrel of it. You just don't understand and how it actually does work, and just stay on the ball with me.
All right, so you want to talk about gas pressure? How do they measure that, by the way?
It's the altitude with respect to sea level.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, there we go again.
Oh, you want to bring up a gas pressure gradient from Mount Everest of 29,028 feet from
Oh dear,
sea level. Oh dear.
going back there again, huh? So no matter which way you go, I mean, you can't avoid it. You could try to avoid it, but you can't because everything is described from it. Oh, you want to talk about freaking flight? Oh, really? You want to talk about flying 30,000 feet for over 200 miles? You want to talk about height and distance there, are you not?
Yep. That is the beauty of the instruments. Yeah. It's how they're measuring our flat Earth, or the instrument baseline. It's utilizing those measurements for the aviation of our flat Earth. Oh, what's this? A attitude indicator with its pitch in degrees to the horizontal plane of our flat Earth, with its nose tilted 3 degrees from the horizontal plane of reference and straight and level flight with the horizontal datum that it is, and its vertical distance. I can go on. Its vertical distance to where the aircraft is, and its
everything you need
altitude.
to describe that.
Yeah, you're going to need mean sea level, or based on the an airport station, above ground level, which you're going to require it still to be flat and measured from flat to where it is to mean sea level as well, all in reference to the horizontal plane of our flat Earth.
Who is M-Dub?
And describing that, right, CC, is easy. By comparison to going through a logical consistency that has to take its inference from the whistling past of those flat Earth measurements you just detailed, just detailing the flat measurements is actually quite simple, isn't it? It's not complicated. It's easy to process mentally. Would you agree?
Of course.
Yeah, it's just what it is.
Right.
I mean, I could go show you the straight line on the approach plate on a minimum descent altitude, for the pilot to land the plane, and that this is what he needs to safely do before he has to do a turnaround at a decision height, which is from that horizontal plane. You could just simply show him it. Boom, there's your flat Earth. Nothing complicated, no web to unweave or any of that stuff. There it is.
Who's M-Dub?
I see him now here. You
Who
wanna
is
speak
that?
up?
How's it going? My name's Mark. I'm a translator. The
Oh,
translator you've been talking to. How's it going?
ventriloquorum. How are you doing?
hello.
Pretty good. How's it going?
I
Good.
bet you need to speak to Nathan, do you not?
Yeah, I'll be in touch with you. I'll send you a copy as soon as I've got it back from the publisher. Same goes for the guys doing the voiceovers. I will be in touch.
Sure. Great. You're
But good to have you.
I think he was trying to say something. We lost him.
I didn't understand voiceovers. What you mean by that?
Oh, that's somebody else. That's just a different person that's also got to be supplied a copy of the book.
Right on. And once I get this copy, do you remember Mickey Mess
Yes.
from the chat? He wanted to do a German translation.
Cool. I'll have to get in touch with him as well.
And then I got another guy on board to kind of to do a French translation. He's in Master B, but because of the delay, I sort of told him it's going to be a while. I'll let you know when when things are on.
3 different languages. That sounds really cool.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Keep it going. Way to go, guys.
Now you were saying something that other translations you got to be careful because they get certain words wrong.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've read that as well because my wife was saying, well, why do you need a translator when you publish through Amazon? They offer the facility to just translate it for you. But then you read about people who've actually done it and it doesn't, especially with something complex, necessarily get the context correct. You need to work with a real person when it comes to language translation. You can't just rely on Google Translate doing a good job because it won't.
Yeah, the translators nowadays, because I've been translating for maybe 20 years, and now that job kind of has ended because of AI, right? So people just farm out their stuff to AI, but it's creating kind of a what's AI slop translation, because AI then pulls from bad translations that have been done over the last 10 years for their translations. So you can, yeah, you got to be careful. You need a human, you need a person to review for sure, a native speaker preferably. And so, particularly if you're going to, try to move it around or go on some presentations, there's some people I got in touch with who might be interested in interviewing you at some point. They're kind of in the Spanish realm, I don't know how good their English is. I think it's quite good actually. So that's an advantage too, because you're native English speaker, most of the world will be able to conduct an interview with you. So if you do want to do any sort of book presentations in those areas or with those people, they can usually, interview you.
Yes, and I think the other thing that will be a bit more true is once it physically exists, that is to say you and the guy who wants to translate it into French and the guy who wants to translate it into German will be more keen once they've actually read it, and they'll be like, this is worth my time.
That's true. Yeah, I had a guy send me a book to translate recently too, and it's really bad. It's from like 2016 arguments and worse, and it's been really hard for me to actually to do him the favor of translating it. I'm actually editing it a bit, just throwing in some things because he's even his words are wrong, and
But that's good news for Nathan, because Nathan's book is going to be second to none. Nathan gets right to measurements and he makes it clear throughout the book, which is excellent.
Well, while you're here, ventriloquorum, I could say your name. Hopefully, like I say, more importantly for you as you're here now, you'll see that when you read it, you'll be like enthused to want to translate it. I mean, there's going to be things that inevitably you'll be contacting me going, what do you mean by this? Because even with, even if you're an English native speaker, there's going to be certain terminologies that I specifically use that might not necessarily be clear in translation to a different language.
Well, like bifurcate?
Not bifurcate. Most people who understand English understand what the word bifurcate means. I mean,
What's
like
the other fancy
colloquialisms
one?
or slang.
Taking a strap off of someone, for example. I'll have to figure out how to translate that.
What was that? Say that again.
Taking a strip off of someone, I think you say?
Yeah, exactly. Taking a strip off somebody. Precisely. A good, perfect example. I couldn't think of one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you're talking about the slang. Oh, I got you.
Also, I've been listening the last few days to kind of get up to speed with this whole book thing and the theft, right? And it's interesting because I attended one of these book corrections, only one of them, and it was so unbelievably long. I had to justify it, in fact, to several other people, who were waiting for me. It's like, because I think it went on for maybe 4 hours, and we got a page or two done. And yeah, I mean, I've heard Neil mention that there was more downtime than uptime, and I can definitely attest to that. And I wonder if it's their complete inefficiency at sort of conducting the corrections led them to want a piece of the pie, because, I mean, a normal correction, which I've been a part of, it would not be tolerated to take so much time and waste people's time so much, So, yeah, I just worry that right now there's like a memory loss, right? People are coming in and they don't know what happened. And I think you've been addressing that the last few days. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
What I meant by that, by more time off than on, was they made it sound like it was constant. Doing a book, doing a book, doing a book, we're doing a book. Hey, honey, I want to go somewhere. No, I'm doing a book. It wasn't like that at all. There was more time not working on the book than working on the book. That's why they strung them along so long.
Yeah, for sure. I remember like just having to listen to some weird music before getting started, some horrible like country. I don't know. It was strange. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it was awful.
Yeah, but they'll make it sound like they were working nonstop on it. I mean, I think that's what led to Nathan finally going there and saying, hey, I want to start working on my book, because they went on a holiday. That holiday led to a freaking Fugazi burglary, right? To the point where nothing got done for close to 3 months. So anybody that's want to release a book wants to get to work. And I think that's when the shit hit the fan. How dare you want a copy of your fifth draft to work on it without us? We're planning on stealing this. Don't you know that?
We're going to rewrite recently recorded history as well and put this into if we had done it a different way, then it would have been okay. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. That whole video of Adam confessing that it just an honor for us to be part of it was for him to try and jolt Nathan into reality. That, hey, we're your friends here. That's why I said those things. I was trying to get Nathan to come to his senses that, hey, we need to be authors. Oh, really? And the sad thing is, there's a handful of people that bought that shit. while listening to him saying it with his own freaking mouth that it won't be stolen valor. They bought that line of bullshit. What does that say about those people?
It says that they are either idiots or they are being willfully stupid.
Yeah, I said that to Brian. Brian said, "Neil, you're so lost. You don't even know why." Adam was saying that. I said, "Yeah, I know why he was saying that. He was like freaking speaking his mind, speaking his heart. That they were honored to be part of it." But then you listen again. There's something elusive going on in the background where you'll confess that, I'm going to write a book one day, but it won't be stolen valor. Really?
Yeah, the delusion is though we're not going to know.
The best is the meeting of brilliant minds. Along the way, you met some people, brilliant-minded people.
Yeah, they're from different fields. But it's your book. Oh, ding, ding, ding. So ipso facto, it's not yours, Adam and Mr. Stunja and company.
Forget about that. The fact that he said that about himself with his own lips. I mean, geez, let another man praise you and not your own lips. Let somebody else say it. Geez, you're saying it about yourself? Holy shit.
It's the hubris that's involved with these folks and the delusion.
Yeah, because they're not idiots. They can't fall back on stupidity. They know what they did. They know exactly what they did. And they're just lost. That's all they've done.
Yep. Reaping what you sow from your deception. And in the end, we'll just shake the dust off our feet.
Right, time to round out. With that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.